We didn't do a countdown. I'm so used to the countdown. I was like, I was going to wait for the countdown, but here we go. Welcome to Product Like It's Friday. On a Friday, we're in New York City. This is a special PLIF bonus, which Mary has planned.
Yes.
And she gave me an idea. She pitched the idea to me. And then I said yes. And then I forgot about most of the pitch on purpose. And then I believe there's parts of the planning that I'm unaware of.
Yes.
And this is your show.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know if it was necessary to pitch you.
Well, you're the boss.
There was a part of me that was like, even if it's unnecessary, it was kind of fun.
Okay, yeah,
to do.
yeah. There was a slide deck. There was a whole system.
I had a slide deck. I may share it in the comments in the future.
One thing I didn't, I guess, did I mention we're in New York City?
You did. You did.
I did. It was a long time ago. It was 30 seconds ago. So not only are we in New York City, we're in the WIZA office in New York City, which is where I work. And you can see that I'm wearing the WIZA hoodie because I didn't want to go half sleeve on stream just because of my insecurities. And this was the only full sleeve thing I had left that was clean.
That was a lie.
That's why.
Okay.
I might, because I don't know, I might have now, because I'm not getting sponsorship money for this, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, but we're using
Yes,
our boss's
that's true.
office.
That's true.
uh,
So shout out to our boss.
Stephen Akami, and Mary and I are actually co-workers now at WIZA. We weren't when we started the stream, but we are now. Okay, so I feel like we've set the context.
Yes. Yeah, so today's episode is going to be a special one where we don't build products. Not at all, unfortunately, or fortunately.
It's fine. We're doing friendship, unfortunately. That's what this is titled. So this is your idea.
We're doing friendship instead. So I think my pitch was, originally it was like, have you seen the Hot Ones, the YouTube channel where they bring in celebrities?
Is there a celebrity here?
They bring in celebrities from different walks of life.
Okay, yeah.
And interview them.
Okay.
And I really like watching those shows because I feel like the host is a really good interviewer.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like I think he does his research. Great job.
He's so monotonous as well. In 1963, you did this,
Yeah.
and what about the thing
He
that?
like
How does
fades
it?
into the
Yeah.
background a
Yeah.
lot. But like he's brought some celebrities who are also good interviewers, like Conan.
Yes.
And they have like, I think there were other people, but Conan's was like the memorable one where he was complimenting the guy. He's like, "Oh, you're good."
Yeah. Not only that, he had the doctor who was checking his pulse or his temperature, I believe, Dr. Arroyo, and then he also had the chicken sauce all over his face, and he was drooling. And I saw something I like about Conan O'Brien a lot, actually, because he's willing to be extremely absurd in order to get a laugh.
Yeah. So I wanted to do that originally.
You want me to drool? You want me to? What are we doing? What am I doing?
My semi-secret agenda was to get Adnan to eat something on stream.
Right.
Because
Right.
that was, I don't even know why you were avoidant of it at this point.
It's, it's like something, you bite into it, you crunch, the sounds, the messiness, stuff is in my beard. And then, it's a lot to manage all at once.
Understandable. But you said yes.
I did say yes, because I'm willing to take a chance sometimes, but we weren't able to get hot wings.
I think we could.
We didn't try. We didn't try.
We didn't try very hard because priorities.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna mostly do the questions.
Okay. And if I may, I think in your pitch there was one point of hesitancy I had, and I do want to share it.
Yes.
Which was what? Or I want you to share it. Or no,
You can share it.
Yeah, and so I think there's something about the dynamic which is sometimes weird, where interviewee and interviewer, and kind of an imbalance where I don't want to appear like you're asking the questions and I have the answers
The
kind
microphone.
of situation. And so we'll see if we can make it conversational or
Yeah.
not. But I didn't know what you had in plan, but I think either way it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the questions are more like starting points.
Got it.
If you don't want to ask any questions, that's okay too.
Okay, great. 0 questions for me. You're clear.
But the other thing I did was this is the part that Adnan did not know. I made a little vibe-coded little app.
Oh wow.
So let me share my screen quickly, if I can figure out how to do that. Do I know how to do that?
I don't have a problem drinking on stream, by the way. As we just, it's just eating on stream. It's like the crunch and the
Just eating.
hey, yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if I can figure out how to share this. But it's okay. I have it on my phone too.
And how are you gonna share it from your phone?
Good question. I would just hold it up.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's great.
So I made this, and I will also show you. I made this vibe-coded Friendship Like It's Friday app
Okay.
using Figma Make. Not sponsored.
Oh wow. Okay. All
Not
right.
sponsored, but we should be.
Yeah, exactly. With Figma, wow, we have 2 viewers, and I feel like it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality, and we have neither.
Yes. Anyway, so this app is it's pretty simple. It's honestly pretty similar to, I want to say, Honeypot.
Okay.
In that there are sequences of however many questions in a set and however many sets.
Yeah. Do I have 25 seconds to answer each question?
No, you have unlimited time.
Yeah, all right.
You have unlimited time, and I mean, I didn't spend too much time on it, but the idea is that you can create your custom sets.
Okay.
And yeah, so. Yeah.
And so you built this app and you added your questions to it so you could use it during this. Okay. And I wonder, and here's the first question for me oddly now, which is for example, there's the idea of sort of using Figma Make in order to do this thing, but you had other options where you could have put them on a Notion.
They are also on a Notion.
You could have just used Figma proper as well. And so what sort of drove you to try the Figma Make aspect of it?
I wanted, because I wasn't sure exactly which questions to put at first.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to be able to swap them easily without having to edit it in multiple places, if that makes sense. I guess I could have just used slides.
Yeah, and then you were like, why do this when I can build a whole app?
I mean, the truth is also I got access to Figma Make around the same time, and I was like, what can I use it
No,
for?
yeah, it's a great sort of experimental
I just want to try it.
thing to do. Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think it's also I'm curious about maybe sharing this with people who can do this on their own.
Absolutely.
Come up with their own questions.
Right.
Talk to their own friends. Talk to your friends. Yeah. So it's unfortunate I can't share it seems like I cannot share my.
Did you want to share both the screen and us so the questions were viewable online?
I did.
Okay. I mean, it's fine. We can take half a minute to try and share your iPad screen if you think that's sort of something that you want to try still.
Let me see. I think
You are logged in here, right?
I am, yeah.
But your own camera is not on. Just some production issues, folks. This is the first time we're doing this in person, and this is in a setup where actually in our boss's office using his monitor, his camera, his webcam. We have our own mic and setup otherwise, but just some production issues as we're getting in here. But for other production purposes, we have Jake who says, "This is awesome. Hey guys." Thank you for tuning in, Jake.
Hey,
and hopefully we
Let's
won't,
see. Let me see if I can.
bore people too much. So just some production issues we're resolving before we get started with this question and answer process.
Right. Maybe I can like join the stream on my phone.
Yeah, absolutely. Should I send you an invite link?
I don't think I need to.
You're the boss. You're like, I have access. What are you talking about?
I am not the boss. Whoever has this office is
the boss. This is true.
Okay, let me try if this works.
Well, I'll quickly explain what we were doing in Europe.
Did you say Europe? Oh my god.
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
Hold on.
I can hear me loud and clear. There's currently a New York Tech Week going on in New York City. This, I believe, happens in different cities in the States during different parts of the year. And our company sponsored an event where it was a rooftop party, and everyone from the team pretty much who was available to do so flew in. And for some of us, it was the first time that we're meeting, getting together. And that's sort of been the last few days for us. And we wanted to use this opportunity to do an in-person live stream for the last few months. We have been logging in from Ottawa and Toronto, respectively. And
sorry, you're doing like all the talking.
Well, yeah, isn't that just like any other stream we do, right? So
okay, I don't think I can figure this out.
okay, yeah, I was feeling airtime. We were on television.
I don't think we need to. It's fine. It's
Okay.
fine. Point is, I made an app that we might actually not use for this,
Oh.
but I will share because you might want to use it on your own friends.
How? So just for one clarity purpose, the app is on here. The app is on here. Can I get the app on my computer and share my screen?
Yes,
But then I'll see
you have to add the questions.
Got it. Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I mean, if you want to just like share how the app is,
Yeah.
like just like click around.
Okay. Do you want to do that before?
Maybe after.
Or maybe at the end then.
Maybe after.
Okay, great.
Okay, cool. So I guess I will just start it here, and only we can see it. I mean, we can. I guess we can.
Am I supposed to look, or are you just going to read them off?
No, I want to share like how
Mhm.
the flow is. So essentially,
This is amazing, guys. You don't know what you're doing. This is just, I'm sorry.
I will also show the camera. Essentially, like you can give the conversation a title. This is optional if you want like vibe checks in between multiple questions,
Okay.
and you can have like multiple tiers
Oh,
of questions.
wow. Okay, got it.
So by default, there are like 5 levels, but pretend like you're not looking at the questions
Sure.
itself.
I'm not looking at the questions yet. Okay, and the questions get spicier, or there's levels of
essentially,
questions.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe you do want to show the camera this part at least, and I'll look away, and I won't look at the screen so I don't see the
So
questions.
basically, what I showed Adnan is that first you are giving the conversation a title. I'm boring, so I gave it just the title of June 6, 2025. And then there's an option to include or exclude vibe checks in between different levels. And then by default, there are like 5 different sets. And I have not stress tested this, so maybe there's a max on how many questions per level. But in this case, this is how many there are in each level. And then you hit start. So if I hit start, theoretically, it should start the first question.
And you see a question at a time.
And
We did do the demo essentially.
it's kind of blurry.
A little blurry, but
So the first question is,
Mhm.
what do you like to watch on YouTube or wherever you consume your internet content the most?
What do I like to watch on YouTube?
Is it YouTube?
It's mostly YouTube. Sometimes I'll use something like a Netflix or what have you as background noise sometimes, but YouTube also fills that gap. But when I am paying attention, I will watch. I watch chess content quite a bit. There's a YouTube channel called Chess Base India, and they follow chess in general, but they specifically focus on these Indian chess players who are in their late teens, early 20s,
Okay.
who are sort of emerging into the chess world, but they're like top 10 players in the world. And so, but I'll watch chess games. I'll watch chess tutorials quite a bit. I will. Okay, here. I think sports commentary is the most useless thing in the world. One of the most useless things in the world, because people are like, oh, who's the best player? Is it Jordan or is it Kobe or is it LeBron? It's like, here's my opinion, here's your opinion. But I think they're great at marketing, right? People like Stephen A. Smith or there's these sports
I don't
commenters,
know who they are.
and they
I
create
don't
sort
watch
of this.
sports.
They create sort of this like loose tension, and but I do catch up with like NBA highlights every so often. I don't really watch the games anymore. And then I like watching science videos quite a bit, like quantum physics, either interviews or explanations. I don't remember anything, but I feel great when I'm watching them.
It's like you're just absorbing.
Yeah, things like Veritasium as well. If you're aware of that
Yeah.
channel, where he'll kind of go
Great
deeper into
channel.
explaining
Great
certain
channel.
things. And then there's other kind of just panel interviews that happen as well. So that kind of stuff is usually my YouTube jam.
Do you scroll on other platforms?
YouTube Shorts, honestly,
Okay.
like that's. I mean, I do go on Twitter to keep a sense of what's happening in the world. Blue Sky or Twitter, and usually I just go to the Explore page and just look at what the trending topics are. So I'm like, oh, here's what's probably happening in the world, and to be honest, mostly in America. And then, but YouTube Shorts is kind of my addiction flow, where I'm sort of seeing this. Either some of it actually happens to be because of random acts of coding. It happens to be coding content as well. Like I'll get some coding content, but otherwise, yeah, it's a mixture of whatever else I'm watching, but in a short format. I also see a bunch of these videos that are like people playing games, like people playing Connect 4 and they're doing silly things while they're doing that, or people playing some games or whatever, like Hangman, but it's physical Hangman. Have you seen that?
No.
So it's like this, but there's a hangman set here.
What?
There's a hangman set here, and the word is visible to the people, but not to you.
That's
and
neat.
and you pull like a tag from the cover, like for each letter, as you see a letter. But if you get it wrong, you stick the head of the hangman in there. You stick like the body, the leg, hands, the legs. But when you stick the last item, it's heavy enough that it falls apart.
That's kind of smart.
Yeah. And so it's like there's a bunch of these games that just pop up, and I'm not like it's very filler content. Yeah. Do you have a go-to on YouTube or any other platform?
I don't think I watch a lot of content compared to the average person.
Interesting.
I think I want to say it's self-constrained, but it's patience. Especially like if it's not shorts or like whatever the equivalent is for Instagram. I guess it's also shorts.
Yeah.
Like when it's not short, I'm like, I don't have time for 20 minutes of something, anything.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay.
I like interview type content. Like I enjoy like people talking to each other.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is like I
So-
really like hot ones, like that type of thing.
Right.
But honestly, I don't watch that much.
Would something like Product Like It's Friday qualify for your condition of people talking together? Because there's quite a bit of talking that we do,
That's true.
and then we're working at the same time. So
Yeah.
when there's like, would that qualify as content that you may actually watch, or are you just producing content that you would actually never watch yourself, Mary?
I honestly would not watch.
Oh, that's so good.
Would you?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, maybe. Like there's two aspects to it too. Like I think different people are in different parts of their career or their learning journey. I think would I watch it currently? I would watch it if I liked the people on the stream. It wouldn't be something like, oh, I need to learn something or I need to do something, right? It's really something you're watching in either in the background or in like mid-foreground area, and you're curious as to what people are doing and what they're sharing, right? Like as we're building things, you're mildly curious, but you're not like, oh my God, You know, Adnan's coding and I'm going to become a 10x coder by watching him code, or a 10x designer by watching make. I'm not saying that's not possible, but I'm saying that's not what my expectation is when I go into these things.
Yeah, I guess it's more that I would not watch I would not watch ourselves if it's purely for the content itself. Like for the
But what if you didn't know yourself? You know, you're saying you don't want to watch yourself. Is that because, you know, sometimes you get inside of your voice, you look at your face on stream, you're like, I forgot to wipe the thing off my cheek. It's there the whole time. I can't just double check it. I can't watch 20 minutes of myself. But would you watch that kind of a product building process? And because we're doing long form, slow content.
Yeah, I think because it's like semi-regular time, probably yes.
Okay.
Like if it's more sporadic, I know we're pretty
yeah,
sporadic.
that's what we do. So we're not like, I don't watch our stuff for sure, because I feel like I don't want to do that. Like, as much as I love hearing the sound of my own voice, it's too much to see it on YouTube. I'll be honest.
So have you gone back to watch anything that we made?
I've seen certain, like, very few, like, you know, bits, like, like 30 seconds here maybe, or, you know, we might have said something that we're going to do, or something that we need to reference. I think that's about it, but I have not seen like over a minute of anything that we've done. There was this one time I called a friend a loser, and I wanted to send in that clip, and I had to search it, like, what are you gonna do? You know, so that kind of stuff.
Yeah, same.
Are you gonna watch this?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't do it. All right.
I might start, but I might feel like it's
like this is too much. Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair.
Wait, I forgot what the question was.
What do you watch on YouTube?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was this one portion of like my life, I guess, where I was watching quite a bit of fitness content as well. But I haven't been recently because I have not been fitnessing during this time.
Yeah, I think I watched a good amount of like workout videos for a while.
What about running? Did you like, as you were emerging into the running space, did you like, YouTube was not your go-to?
No.
Yeah.
Like what is there about, like, what is there to learn about running?
But I mean, I will use YouTube for, like, a lot of times when I'm looking on how-tos. For like everything from building furniture to, but it's not like general content I'll like watch on a regular basis. But I mean, it's so silly. Like on YouTube, sometimes I answer the question, but like half the answer is coming to me now. I'll sometimes even watch woodworking, like this person making a desk using epoxy, and I feel like I know so much.
Are you gonna make a desk?
I'm probably never gonna make a desk in my life, but the content itself.
Don't never say never.
All right. I am.
What if you like win $1 million and can do that?
I'm gonna buy $1 million table and make it myself. Full million on the table.
So
but
you do not want to like apply what you learn?
I think, as I've said before, I'm not really learning how to make. Like, I think learning how to make it. I'm watching how this guy who's an expert is making a table, which makes me feel good. And there's some parts of it that seem interesting. But for example, when I was building a computer for myself, like I was building a mid-gaming PC, I was watching a bunch of content around those lines. Or like, I think the learning aspect of like, I want to build this, or like, you know, I bought a piece of furniture, I want to put it together, I want to make sure that I'm not messing it up. YouTube's amazing for that. Even tech content, where if I don't know how to do something and I'm like, how to do this thing, and maybe someone's done a very specific tutorial on it, it's gold.
Okay. What's your level of like addiction to like content
every day?
Like from a scale of.
I'm a very, like, I think I have a fairly addictive personality. And so, I mean, there have been times where like, you know, I don't look at that stuff for weeks maybe, but that's rare. And in between now, I mean, these days it's kind of like very regular. It's like every day.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Honestly, I have had times, I probably have shared this in the past, but there have been times that I like sink way too much time on Instagram, to the point that This is very embarrassing.
That's great. That's why we're here. If you're not embarrassed, then why are you doing social media content?
There have been times that I would wake up in the middle of the night, and the first thing I do is I reach for my phone.
Yeah.
And first I'm just like, let me see what time it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I don't know. Like
It's time to doom scroll. Right?
Doom scroll o'clock.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like my brain is just like, let's see what time it is. And I think the justification is if it's like late enough, like it's, you know, if it's like 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., then I think I'm like, okay, maybe I can just get up or something.
Yeah.
Versus like if it's 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
theoretically, I will just put my phone down
Yeah.
and go back to sleep.
The reward factor
Never
is too
happens.
high. The reward factor for social media is too high. Like it's
Too
just
easy.
and it's super like it's the whole world's knowledge and information in a flow and bite-sized content. It's hard to ignore.
Yeah. So it got to the point where I had to put my phone in a different room.
Yeah.
And so when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, there's nothing that I can reach.
Can do it. You're like you're like you're detoxing.
Yeah. Detoxing.
Yeah.
And I have to like the first week that I did a digital detox, only in the evenings, by the way, only during sleepy time.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, this is hard.
You're shivering, you're sweating. It's you're like I need you're holding
Like,
together.
I need an alternative.
The partner's getting a blanket for you as you're like kind of okay, got it.
Well, it got so bad that when like literally like my partner was the one that was like, oh, like, do you think you should put your phone somewhere else?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, I don't have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh shit, I sound like an addict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, why did I get so defensive?
It is what it is. I think some of us are kind of lucky in that sense of how, like, I mean, you could say certain addictions are fairly harmful and there's degrees of harm. And I think like it's lucky to be in sort of these zones of addictions that are not as harmful as others, I feel.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
I don't. I'm fine. Like,
You don't?
it's like I think I don't know which philosopher it was, and we've spoken about this before. I think time you enjoy wasting is not time wasted. Do I enjoy doom scrolling? Not necessarily, but I think it's also I don't think it's necessarily taking much away from my life. That I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not climbing Mount Everest. Like, oh, if only I wasn't doom scrolling on a Thursday night, I would be climbing Mount Everest, and that's not true. So I think that's fine.
You don't have to go so extreme.
I'm never gonna climb Mount Everest. She's like, never say never, but it's not. But like I'm not necessarily replacing that time with productive time anyway, so I think it's fine.
Okay. So like you don't feel like, oh, I could have gotten more sleep.
I always feel like I could have gotten more sleep, but
then you're taking time away from that.
But it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
So you're just accepting the consequences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of
Yeah. Why beat up myself over something like that? Like, what's the point? And there'll be ebbs and flows where sometimes I'm, sort of more inclined to doom scroll, and other times where I'm not, and I think that's fine.
That's fair. Cool.
All right.
Next question. This is mild, by the way. Also, there is a skip button with a chicken
If you don't
wing
like
on it.
if you don't like the question,
There's a chicken wing on it because if you skip it, you're a chicken.
got it. Very nice. Do you have questions that you think I might skip?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. By the way, in the pitch, I gave a couple sample questions.
Which I've forgotten. I purposely tried to not. I didn't want to see them, honestly, because the last thing I want is to feel like
Think
I should
about
prepare.
it
Yeah.
beforehand.
And so I actually don't remember them at all. How do you, just for production purposes, I know this is a lot, how do you feel about the time we're spending on per question kind of space? I just want to.
I think we can just go by.
Okay, good.
Go by ear.
Great.
This one is: are there any superstitions you believe in to any extent?
No.
No?
No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely
Not even like knock on wood or anything like that.
Somebody might answer this door. Someone opens it. What are you doing? No.
No?
No.
Interesting.
Were you expecting a different answer?
I don't know.
Because you seem surprised. You're like, are you sure, Adnan?
To
Are
any
you
extent.
to zero extent?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's confidence.
Yeah. Zero extent. What's your level of superstitious conviction?
It's definitely low.
Mm-hmm.
But like when I say something that I'm like, oh, like I'm like taking something for granted, I will like knock on wood.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like if I don't knock on wood, I'm gonna like, I don't know, die or anything like that.
Guys,
I would still do it,
It's just-
just in case.
I have not been knocking on wood for a long time. Am I making a mistake? Am I missing something in my life?
I mean, you seem to be doing fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's all these levels. Maybe I would have infinite money if I had been just everywhere I go. I'm kind of like, hey, there's a tree, there's a door. You seem a little like bothered might be the wrong word, but I feel like you feel like a level of surprise here that you're like. So, given the time and space that you've known me, you would have maybe said, hey, this is maybe in the potential things that he may consider. Or does it align with what?
I think it's more because it's so absolute.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if there is a gradient, it's like 0
Yeah.
or anything more than 0.
Yeah.
Even if it's 0.1, it's more than 0. And
Yeah.
you're saying absolutely 0.
Yeah. The thing about superstitions, I think, in my opinion, which is probably correct, is that like it's how it makes you feel, not the impact that it has on the outcome. Right? You're sort of maybe feeling safer when you're wearing something that you feel is protecting you. Is it protecting you or not? We'd have to look at the data set and say, hey, the set of people that wear this protection mechanism are actually safer than not. And then we have some legitimacy to this thought, but we know for certain that people who wear it feel like they're protected. And it's delivering that feeling to them. And I think if that's the purpose of that belief, then it's being served. So if you feel like you're in a certain place when you're doing your kind of knock on wood thing, or you're avoiding walking under ladders, or whatever the case may be, or if a black cat crosses, you're not supposed to cross a black cat, various levels of superstitions. If it makes you feel better, you should do it. I think that's fine.
Like,
no harm done.
Were there any that you were like, ooh, in the past?
Like don't open and burn doors. There's a whole bunch of like, either like do this if you do this, salt over your shoulder, or whatever the case may be. I think maybe as a kid, when you hear certain things of like, hey, you got to enter the washroom with your right foot, otherwise such and such. I used to do that, but I think once I grew up and sort of said, hey, like there's no global tracker that decides the outcome of your washroom experience, given which foot you put in the washroom
I
first.
don't know what that is about.
I think that might be some sort of a religious or cultural thing.
What happens if you?
I'm not sure what happens ultimately.
Which foot are you supposed to?
The right foot, right? Because I think there's certain culture you have to eat with the right hand, you have to use the right hand thing and the left hand. And so this idea of like proceeding, and then there might be indication of like, oh, Satan's present or whatever, or some bad omen, perhaps. But the idea being that, okay, look, if it makes you feel better, you should step in with the right foot. But essentially for me, I don't know.
Too much effort?
No, it's not just effort, but like, it doesn't do anything for me. I think if it did something for me, then fine. But I feel like, oh, there's no impact to this. And so I don't dig into it. I don't think I necessarily, and this, I mean, it's weird to say, but I don't think I tend not to believe in things.
So, side tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in like ghosts?
No.
What about like? I guess
It's just the thing is like I don't feel the need to believe. If there are ghosts and there is a interaction or essence that we can get from that experience, okay, fine. Then I'm happy to try it and see what happens. Then I know. If I met a ghost, then I don't have to believe in a ghost, right? Belief is the absence of either like direct experience or shared experience, and so I think it's fine. Like I I think it's unnecessary for me personally to believe in something.
So you need the proof.
Or I just don't even need anything at all. Like, I'm not saying, like, if you believe in ghosts, I'm like, great. And I don't need proof, actually. Maybe they exist, maybe ghosts exist, and they'll never interact with me, and maybe that's fine. It's unlikely, obviously.
I'm like agnostic
Yeah.
about like ghosts, like things we can't see, I guess, and interact with directly.
Yeah, I think my point of view on that is, again, if it makes you feel better, great. But I think the moment you put something out in the world and you say, this is a shared world we live in, and therefore our laws need to be accounted for this thing that I believe that you don't believe, and there's no way I can prove it either way, then I start having some like, I don't know if that we should do that. But otherwise, I think we're good. You're good. I'm good. It's fine. That was a spicier question. I feel
still mild.
That I don't know if I'm ready for these spicy questions. I thought that was pretty spicy.
This is you could have skipped it.
No, I might skip. I'm still holding the right to skip.
Yeah. Like, can you skip every question if you wanted to?
I think that would make a great stream.
Just end it.
That would be a great clip. Like if it skip, we could just cut the clip tight,
Next question is semi-professional. What's your least favorite icebreaker activity? It's funny because I guess we didn't really do like classic icebreakers.
No. I think I'm actually okay with most icebreaker activities, to be honest. Because for me, it's not about the activity; it's about the environment necessarily. Like, I think maybe anything where someone might get hurt, like a falling exercise, probably silly and unnecessary.
You suggested.
I suggested it as a joke that we would never do. Anything that makes people feel uncomfortable is probably silly. But apart from that, it's I think people roll their eyes on that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I feel like if it's able to create any type of familiarity with each other and like actually break the ice. So I think it's the efficacy. So I would have participated in the icebreaker so long ago that I wouldn't, necessarily think about it. In our company meetings, which we have 2 times a week, we ask a question, which is an icebreaker type situation, right? We ask a question that's sort of like,
what was the last one?
I don't remember. But it might be something like what your favorite movie was, and you just, you say it.
What is your favorite movie?
I have a few. I haven't been watching movies for a long time, so I'm not up to date with
what comes to mind. It
what's
doesn't have
in
to
the
be.
world.
It doesn't have to be like the.
Yeah, no. It's so there's a couple that I enjoy tremendously. There's a Persian movie called A Separation. It starts with this couple who have a daughter, and it's based in Iran, and they're separating, and it's a story of kind of what happens around that event. And it really, I think the writing in that movie is so crisp, so fluid, so like the perspectives are so, I don't know, so just connected, let's just say, that I thought, oh wow, like if I could ever write something like this or something that comes close to this, that would be amazing. And then there's an Indian movie called Door is probably like not like door, but like I'm kind of, sometimes it's hard to switch languages and pronounce words properly, but also the word door is like, you don't just say the word, you kind of say it in a sentence, and so the pronunciation emerges in the sentence. But it's thread, and the idea is like how people are tied together, sort of the like what ties people together.
Interesting.
And that story is about, it's a fairly serious story. It's a story about 2 women, and they're in India, in different parts of India, because like very much like America, if you're on the East and the West, I mean, America, although has like English as a language, but very much like, let's say, a place like I'm trying to think about countries that have like many languages, and only India is coming to mind. Where if you're in one state in India, you're speaking one language, another state you're speaking, and the climate is very different. It's almost like it's almost like Europe in a sense,
Bunch of mini
right? Where
countries.
exactly that's what the essence is. And so both their husbands are working in a foreign country, and accidentally one of them kills the other, and one of them has to travel to meet the wife of the person who passed away, in order to get this person free from, because he's like the accidental thing happened, and she needs her signature on these papers in order to get her husband free from this foreign country. And it's her journey of getting there, trying to get that, because dealing with loss, but also dealing with kind of, both of them have lost in this sense, right? And they're trying to kind of connect, and I thought it was an absolutely fascinating story. I haven't given anything away in a sense, but it really is the journey in those movies, both.
Sounds like a nice movie.
You should actually watch it. Legit, you should. I'm going to send you the link.
Send me.
And both those movies are absolutely fascinating. But you have to answer this question as well.
I feel like I'm very basic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think my most recent favorite movie is Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is, I don't want to give it away, but
it's everything.
It's
everywhere all at once. I feel like we already gave it away.
Yeah, you should watch it. I think it won some awards as well when it came out. What I really like about it, like aside from the plot itself, is that it's a fairly low budget movie.
Right.
Like the team were very crafty, and like they did a lot of creative shots without like too much fancy equipment.
Right.
Which I found super cool to even just look at the behind the scenes and just like see how they filmed some stuff. Because like when you watch it, it's like, oh wow, like this is crazy. Like how did they do this? And then you see the behind the scenes, like, oh wow, like.
Is that ever like a creative pursuit that would interest you in terms of sort of the cinematic sense? Not maybe a full length feature film, but some essence of communicating a story through that visual medium.
Maybe. I mean,
never say never, she says.
Exactly. Who knows? I feel like my creative process, this is definitely tangent. My creative process outside of work is more like I usually have a concept, a very vague concept of like maybe it's like centered around a feeling, or like centered around a specific moment. And then I have to figure out how to like build around it. And most of the time, sometimes I have an idea of like what format it's gonna be, like whether it's words or like a visual thing, animation. Sometimes it's like an animation. Like one idea that's been kind of in the back of my mind is like this idea of like blinking and like just like different tiny little like moments that happen between each blink. So like that's like an animation that I'm like, oh, like I want to do something about that, but it's like kind of vague, and I don't exactly know which moments I want to like insert into this. So usually like my process is more fluid in that I don't really know what format it's going to be in until I play with it.
Got it. Okay.
And maybe I play with it and I'm like, it's not quite right.
Okay.
I've definitely like drawn stuff that I'm like, I feel like this is better as an animation, so I would not share it until I can develop it further.
Okay.
But maybe I should share it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, what do you have to lose? Just your sense of self and the judgment of others.
Exactly.
Minor things.
Yeah. But going back to the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is about, I would say it's about an immigrant woman in, I think, America, that like she basically like goes through some of her life experiences and realized that she was doing a lot of things with other people. And like everything is super overwhelming. She's struggling with her relationships, like every direction, and she starts experiencing how can I go into it without giving away?
Don't give it away, because
Okay.
I might watch it. I'm not gonna say
Yeah.
never to that one.
Okay, yeah, you should watch it. It's great.
I've heard that from a lot of people. Who are like, oh, I think you'd enjoy that. But I have been in the last few years in a space where I've kind of almost avoided watching heavier material. This may or may not be.
I don't think it's.
Yeah.
So I really like it because it's both. It has depth.
Yeah.
And it's pretty funny.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I feel like I came to really appreciate like any content that have that duality
Got it.
simultaneously.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it.
Okay. Well, it's on my list. It's number 120 on my list. All right.
Oh, I don't know how we got to movies. We were talking about icebreakers.
Well, who's your favorite movie? Was an icebreaker, for example.
Okay, my least favorite icebreaker is fun fact. It's like it's so low effort.
I haven't done this yet, but my desire is when to preface something with fun fact, but it's not a fact.
Fun lie.
But you don't say that, right? You say fun fact. It's a fun lie from here, but from here, people may or may not think it's a fact. When people say, hey, tell 2 lies and a truth about yourself, my instinct is to say 3 lies, and you can never know who I am. That's the core idea. I haven't done it yet.
But then it's not an icebreaker.
Yeah, in earnest, I actually don't. Now that I think about it, the true lies and the truth thing I actually don't like, because it's a lot to think about in a moment of like after, and then I'll come up with extremes and you kind of know what the lie is, or I just feel like what am I doing in terms of like how much am I willing to give to these people and accept from people I don't know?
I feel like 2 truths and a lie feels more like a brain jogging activity than a
like fun. Yeah, exactly. I think that wasn't present, which is I think that actually in some cases will probably make me uncomfortable to be like, now I got to think about 3 things. And one of them has to be a lie. Like, what's your favorite movie? I can give a silly answer. What's your favorite number? 11.
Is that a lie?
I don't have a favorite number. Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna do with a favorite number? Yeah. Gamble. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a superstition. Sounds like a superstition, right?
Yeah. The thing I don't like about fun fact is like, what makes it fun? Like who decides that a particular fact is fun?
But you do, because you're being asked for the fun fact, and we can judge. But you're presenting what you think is fun.
Yeah, but I feel like I often find other people's not fun facts more fun than the fun facts they present.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking about like, what's the opposite of fun for you?
Boring.
Yeah,
boring
so
facts.
boring lies. Like I think we should double down on the opposite nature of this question.
We should do it in the
next thing. Like, what's your fun fact? I feel like we'll have a lot of fun facts. I'll give you my fun fact.
Wait, are you saying a fun fact or an unfun lie?
No, look, I don't think it's fun necessarily. I think it's fascinating. So I think it's beyond fun in that sense. And I absolutely enjoy it, which is how the perception of the mind works in relation to making connections of what you see and what you hear. So for example, if you have your headphones on and you're watching something at a distance, say on your laptop or your phone, the sound is coming from here, not there. But your brain makes it seems like when somebody moves their mouth, the sound is coming from there. And that's like your brain is connecting that experience to make it seamless. Because when we talk here, the sound is coming from here or here. And this seems very natural. That's what the brain transfers, even though the sound is present directly here. And so it feels that it's coming from there. And I think that's like a very interesting fact. Another one, sorry if I may.
But that's not a fun fact about you.
Oh, sorry, I thought you just said fun fact about the world.
Well, it's an icebreaker.
But you don't think I just broke some ice here? Did I not break some ice?
I don't know.
I thought I shared a fun fact about the world.
Okay. You broke some ice
But I think
about the world.
I think the fun facts you share might say something about what interests you.
That's true. That's true.
For example, just another fascinating fact for me, again, to do with sound, is I love the idea that there are no spaces between spoken words. When you're reading something, there's a space there to delineate when a word ends and starts so you can scan very clearly. But when you speak, it's a constant stream of data, constant stream of information and sound. And your brain, because it recognizes the words, makes it feel like there are spaces in between the words. And this is why when you hear a foreign language, it's so hard to exactly pinpoint where a word ends and begins. And you kind of think, hey, what's this word? And people are like, oh, that's actually two words. You're not saying it correctly. That's because your brain is not capable of understanding where that line begins and ends. Super fascinating to me because you always assume, because that's what your experience is, that it must be true of, sound itself, but it's unrelated.
Interesting.
What does that tell you about me?
You like sounds.
I like facts about sounds.
You've gone down some rabbit holes about sound.
Or how the brain perceives things.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah. My latest rabbit hole was, this is literally yesterday. I learned that someone stole a Banksy art in Toronto a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have to know, did this show up eventually? Did they catch the guy?
Right.
Because they got the guy stealing it on camera. They never found it. And I was like, that's crazy.
But people steal things and they go unfound.
I know, but it's Banksy.
Also, you think it's important, it's worth putting resources behind?
Well, they've found other stolen Banksy art in the past. And it's been, since this guy has stolen this piece from Toronto, it's been 7 years.
Wow.
And it still hasn't shown up, and it's crazy.
May I offer you something that I'm curious how you react to it. I think people should steal Banksy's art, in a sense, because isn't that the whole nature of his, I'm not a Banksy expert, but from what I've gleaned over kind of doom scrolling.
What if Banksy set it up?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't this whole thing, I'm kind of going here, leaving this art here that, is kind of like breaking the rules and something. So, I don't know why other people are subject to rules around your art when your art is also breaking the rules. Maybe it's my art is to steal your art.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, the fact that Banksy is anonymous, but then there are auctions happening
and he gets the money?
I don't know.
Okay, well, yeah.
I did not go down that route.
Mm-hmm. Or he sells the art, but it self-destructs itself, and now that is also art.
Yeah, it's an interesting
Mm-hmm.
thing to think about. I forgot what the question was again. We were still on the ice.
Yeah. Let's see. That's why I asked how much time per question.
Okay.
Because hot wings, they're boom, boom, boom.
How are you doing so far?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Let's. You want to jump up a level?
Yes. What made you start random acts of coding?
Yeah, I think.
Also, I guess give the context of when this was and all that.
Yeah, so this was, I want to say sometime near the end of 2022. My memory may be a little flaky. So 3 or so years ago. And I think every time in the past where I've considered creating some social media-ish content, now YouTube maybe is a bit more unique because at least videos can be longer form than say Twitter or just limited characters, what have you.
Do you tweet?
Not really. I used to here and there, but I feel like it's too much of a sense of feeling like I'm putting something into the void that it doesn't feel rewarding at all. Not at all, but it doesn't feel as rewarding as other things. But I like the idea of YouTube in the sense where if I am covering some material, say around coding or whatever the case may be, there's a long tail, like if someone's searching for that specific problem or that kind of a thing. So it seems like appealing content. But historically, every time, in 2013, I was like, oh, maybe I should do YouTube. And I was like, there's so many YouTubers. What am I gonna, it's so saturated. Or I should tweet or whatever. I'm like, it's so saturated.
What did you want to tweet or YouTube about back then?
Coding as well. Yeah, same thing. And so, and I was like, and the feeling of that saturation emerged over and over, and I didn't do it. And then I also found like historically I've done a bunch of, let's say, hobbies here and there, and I wasn't doing as many of them. Let's say in sort of this like mid-COVID era, and
When you say hobbies,
yeah,
like what are you referring to?
like even something like learning how to juggle. I don't know how to juggle. I haven't tried, but I'm just saying a hobby or whatever. Like just figuring out something or doing something or creating something or performing something. And
like magic.
like magic, there's some magic somewhere here. I don't know. It's like she points over here, but I don't know what she's talking about.
It's everywhere.
Like the world is magic, she says. And I was like, like this bread sometimes emerges where I'm like, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. And it's not like, this odd, I don't know how to describe it exactly. Maybe it's personal productivity, maybe, and productivity might be the wrong word, but the idea of like either learning something or figuring something out or creating something. And I had not been doing that for a long time. And I kind of always, quote unquote, wanted to do, like always is a long time, but like for a long time, I wanted to create like YouTube type tutorials or what have you. And then the reason why I started live streaming coding on random acts of coding, random acts was because I know how I behave. And it has to be random because it can't be kind of forced or scheduled, predictable in a sense. And that way I know that if I pursue randomness, like I'm not a planner type person, I'm more of a stumbler. And I get more done by stumbling than I would have if I planned. But sometimes I also get nothing done in both ways as well. And so those are just the way it works. And so my idea was to like, I wanted to produce content, like, here's how to do like a Chrome extension, for example. And maybe it's like 20 minutes to 40 minutes or whatever, 10 minutes to 40 minutes, depending on whatever we're building. But I'm like, I'm not gonna plan the scenes and like record the thing and stitch it together and write a script. I'm like, that's not gonna happen. Mm-hmm. And so my thought was, okay, what if I live stream myself doing it? And then that kind of becomes the guide for the script that I can then make the video. So I did that exactly once. Which is I did one, I mean, to be fair to myself, I did.
I thought you had more.
I did, yeah. So just which I'm being a little bit fair to myself, is the first stream I did was around the Chrome extension thing, and I took that, condensed it, and made a video out of it, like a proper non-live stream video. And then I did live stream other things, but I never converted them to videos. I see. So, but I did, because I think the live stream aspect of it was so interesting to me. And there was also this like, when you live stream, and I think I'm interested in hearing your thoughts about that experience as well, where you feel very like deer in the headlights aspects many times, and then you're like, wait, like I'm supposed to be an expert, and here I am kind of struggling at this thing in view of the world, even though there's nobody in the world watching you. Struggling in public, even though nobody's really like, we don't have like. Yeah. But
it's like it's technically public.
Yeah, exactly. There's even the idea that someone can see the struggle from the outside, and it's there for people to see for decades. Now that kind of pressure, while not explicit, is implicit, and just it is a performance of sorts. It's like theater, and so that kind of thing was like, it wasn't easy to do. Every time I pause to think or figure something out, I'm conscious about the time of the pause.
Yeah. I'm very conscious of when I go off on tangents.
I think tangents are great, actually.
I know, but sometimes I feel like I can't backtrack.
Okay, so that's a you problem, not a content problem. I think from a content perspective, tangents are great, I feel.
Yeah.
So you should, in fact, if anything, you should be encouraged about tangents, because they create sort of this like diverse flow in the stream.
Yeah, I do think like in general, they help move things forward.
Yeah, but you're like, what was I doing? I don't know anymore.
Yeah. I guess it's more like the appearance of incompetence.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's a big thing for me personally. And if we want to get like, I don't know what level of spiciness this is, it absolutely is a representation of competence, because I like the idea of appearing competence, no lie. Which I think most people do, but I feel like I'm extra conscious about it generally, even apart from the stream. Because I want to portray the image of like competence.
Yeah. But we can't be competent in everything all the time.
I can be competent in most of the things I want to be competent most of the times.
Yes.
But everything, I don't aim for everything.
And what I think you should continue the random acts of coding a little bit more. Because when did you stop and why did you stop, that kind of thing.
I think I stopped because I just got just involved in
Other things.
or distracted, I suppose. And it was the other part of random acts of coding that I wanted to get into. All the other things I was doing, I think, was kind of a practice run for this other idea that I had that I want to really pour myself into. I was writing a video script for something called Vim, which is a code editor tool. And the idea behind Vim generally is that you're configuring your own editor. So it's not for people who kind of want to download an editor and start coding right away. It's often for people who want to sort of create their coding environment or heavily involved in creating the coding environment. I've been using it for some 20 odd years. I'm not an expert by any means, but I feel like I may have something to offer. And that's a very nice feeling. It may be true or not, you know what I mean? And maybe this is my superstition in a sense, is I feel like I have something to offer and I really want to get that done. But again, because of that distraction, I never got to that stage.
Have you had 10,000 hours on Vim?
20 years, I hope so. Yeah.
How do you define an expert?
Not by time. I don't.
Why did you say I'm not an expert? How do you can you ever be an expert?
I can be expertish often. I don't like using the word expert, but I feel like Vim itself is such a broad thing. And I think I'm still learning things about it 20 years in, and so I think that's what sort of. And there's people that are probably experts who make Vim. The creators of Vim, I assume, are some level have some level of expertise. I have some decent competence as a user, but also.
So if you run out of things to learn, then you're an expert.
I think there's some line, not out entirely, but I think there's some line you could cross and say, I don't have as much to learn here than not. But I will make a pseudo-spicy comment, I suppose, about I also don't believe in the 10,000 hours things. I think time is a poor substitute for focus. You can spend 10,000 hours on something and not get better at it. Practice does not make perfect. Focused practice and learning cycles, feedback cycles make you better.
How do you know when you're focused?
Okay, so I'll give this example of how I learned how to play ping pong. Okay, and I feel like I'm better than average. Okay, am I an expert? That's what I heard. The rumors have been spread. I'm better. I was better than average. I think now I'm maybe average, but I was better than average, I thought. And the way I learned it is, I think you have to focus on the details. And sometimes I pride myself on getting fairly good at something in a short amount of time, way less than 10,000 hours even. Because if you're able to get focused, not necessarily in attention, but on the things that help you improve, right? And you're able to experiment with that fairly rapidly. And rapidly doesn't mean seconds or whatever. It could mean months, it could mean years, it could mean, days, whatever the case may be. And I know this is such an odd thing to talk about, but in ping pong, how you strike the ball determines the spin. And nobody taught me how to spin the ball. I never watched a video about it. I never read anything about it. It came through play, and you sense how the force of the ball against the paddle and how you swing your arm. And I kind of kept doing it until I'm like, wow, I'm getting these results. What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? And I feel like I got there much sooner than a 10,000 hour limit, or some sort of, not limit, but line in the sand aspect would get me. And I think that's the cheat code to learning, really, is these feedback cycles. I think most people
focusing on more how to tweak things.
Yeah, and like really sensing them, like internalizing them. Like I don't think is like this some magical word or whatever. You have to intuit your way into it. You really have to like internalize, pay attention and internalize. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on being right that we deny ourselves the improvements that understanding how wrong you are get you. Right? Because we want to appear good, we want to appear competent. And we're like, well, no, I'm going to try it my way. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're not, you think this is going to be just magically is going to happen by you're doing the same pattern over and over? Like, what are you doing? And you could spend 10,000 hours doing the wrong pattern and feeling good about it too. And that's a massive trap. Also, I don't believe anything Malcolm Gladwell says.
Oh, spicy. Okay.
Yeah, I think he's a great storyteller. And I think because stories don't have to be true to travel, and I don't think he's the best I think he believes in his stories' truthfulness than the stories themselves contain. Like, the stories they're not as true as he portrays them.
Interesting.
And if you read a story from him where he'll connect like football with, people who clean the streets, and he'll weave a good story about it or whatever, right? And then if you were ever in charge of cleaning the streets or ever had any knowledge about football, you'd be like, that's horseshit. But if you don't know anything about these things, you'd be like, wow, what amazing imagery and connection. And I learned about it because I read an article of him where he compared something about a cookie building factory with open source software. And I said, hey, this is a bad interpretation of how open source software works. But look at all these connections he's made. And I fully realized if somebody did not know about open source software or cookie building, it might not have been cookie building. I remember it was open source software that kind of clued me in. I was like, this man hasn't done the work. He's looking for the story, and he's going to get the story from his work, whether the story is true or not. And he's going to write it and publish it because he's more invested in the storytelling than the truthiness of the story itself. Now, that's one case, but there have been other cases. And I think this criticism is common. I just clued into it because I happened to read something from him where I had some expertise. And I was like, this is great storytelling. That piece was amazingly written. The man has immense talent. But I haven't read his work since then. So I don't know. Maybe he's changed. Maybe he has a different view. Unlikely, though, I think.
Interesting. So it's more like fitting things into the story then.
Yeah. I also think this 10,000 hour thing is amazing marketing. And it's probably not true.
So that's where it came from?
I think he popularized it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. And so, sorry, I'm just kind of ranting about 10,000 hours. It was like, but the aspect of learning is once you clue into learning things, it's a cheat code how you can really progress. And if that progression actually feels very real and tangible on certain things.
Yeah. Cool.
What are we doing?
Remember what the question was.
Do you have it on here?
Next question. What's the product you genuinely like using and why?
I'd love for you to answer that first.
I like using. I feel like there's a lot of products that I unwillingly use nowadays because there are no better alternatives, or there are no, like, maybe they're out there, but it's like on the consumer to figure out what they are and like to like do your own research and stuff. So there's a lot of products that I don't enjoy using, but I'm using because it's there. It's convenient, or like everybody else is on there, or whatever it is. One product that I enjoy using is Notion.
Okay, yeah.
I'm a bit of a Notion nerd. I like how flexible it is in terms of like you can just write a document, but you can also like create databases and like connect them to other places and like integrate it to, I don't know, Zapier, whatever
absolutely.
it is. I enjoy like having that flexibility,
Yeah.
even if what I start with is just the document.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of the product for sure.
Yeah. What about you?
I think if products I enjoy using, I'm not saying this to be facetious, but like I think when we use the word product, typically we're thinking of, like, because we're in the technical space, we're thinking about things that are technical. I enjoy fidgeting,
Okay.
and so for me, like, fidgeting with, it's really hard, and I know it's distracting, and I actually apologize because I'm trying not to.
It's okay.
But even that, like a deck of cards that I can just fidget with, or like I think that kind of, it's so enjoyable. Like it's actually like I'm actually enjoying myself as this fidgeting is happening, and so I think products that, and I don't enjoy all fidgeting products necessarily, but definitely there's some of them I enjoy quite a bit. So,
Do you aside from cards, do you take fidgeting items with you to places?
yes, I have it's mostly been cards, honestly, because it's so easy. But I have bought but I haven't actually bought many fidgeting items. I bought, it might be a pen, for example, although that's not the purpose of the product per se. But I actually like the idea of using products that weren't intended for. But I did buy one fidget thing, and then I did carry it with me for a while. I haven't been recently. It's just something that you could kind of open and close. That's it, like a little click, click, and then sometimes you could kind of push it twice, click, click. I know it's just silly, but and that's good enough for me. It's just a distraction for other people.
Yeah. I have actually, like, my partner and I have a collection of fidget toys that sit in this wooden bowl.
And you're like, what about, like, it's like, someone has a watch collection, they wake up and they're like, what watch am I going to wear today? What thing am I going to fidget with today?
And recently I got more into, like, literally just like balls. Every time I say that, I'm just like,
You heard it here first, folks. Well, actually, I'm sure it's been heard before, but you've heard it here additionally now.
Oh man.
A lot of people like balls. So it's not
No, more like
I'm just saying this is not scripted. Although maybe because like you just, like she's trying to like get away from it. And the moment, okay, look, okay, fine. Okay. Take two.
One thing I feel like that's true of me is that the more comfortable I am, the more unintentionally inappropriate things I will say. So that's a compliment, I guess.
So this will be, speaking of inappropriate, if I may. But you could be like, hey, we want to keep this at a certain level.
No, go ahead. We're only on level 2 right now.
Yeah. And so this is so stupid. I used to do kind of some light magic with these foam balls. Okay. And people enjoyed them. Like a lot. And then at times when people are like, oh, this person does this trick, they'd be like, hey, do you have your balls? Where are your magic balls? And I'm like, hey, dinner first at least. What are we doing? So, but it's so natural, like this, the like, obviously you kind of did that.
I like sometimes even when I'm aware of it, I'm like, how else do I say it?
No, it would happen at work. I'm telling you, like people would be like, I'm in the lunchroom and somebody would be like, hey, do you have, like, and it's such a, it's part of the human condition, I feel like. So no shame.
Yeah, I like
fidgeting. That's what we're talking
fidgeting.
about. Like, not just like balls. So go ahead, please.
My physio recommended these. Oh my god.
Balls? I didn't even say ball. People
these, like they are like, I guess they are made of foam. I don't actually know what they are made of, but they have like enough resistance that exercises my hands.
Got it. Yeah.
And I was dealing with carpal tunnel and
Oh,
things
okay.
like a whole
Yeah.
thing. So at first I was just like, okay, I gotta do this for physio's sake. And then I'm like, oh, this is kind of nice.
Yeah.
And what I like about it is like most of our dedicated fidget stuff make clicky noises.
Yes.
And wow, I think that's great for like when you're not on a call or like whatever. And when you don't have other people that you can distract. I was like, oh, the foam ball is great for like just silent-ish fidgeting.
Folks, balls, Mary approved. Try them. Pick them up.
Yes.
Foam balls, fidgeting foam balls. Give it a shot.
Yes. Recommend.
Yeah, highly recommend it.
I actually brought one.
Really?
This trip.
Okay, well.
Well, not the ball.
Oh, what? Just a fidgeting toy. Just my level of excitement and disappointment. I don't know if I conveyed it clearly, but okay, well, fine. We'll look at this other fidgeting toy.
Like right now?
Like later. I don't know. Get it later. Get it later.
If you remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question. What's something you secretly want to happen as a result of Product Like It's Friday, if there is any?
I think.
And if you vocalize it, it's no longer a secret.
I don't know that I have a secret thing, honestly. Like, oh yeah, I do, of course. I want to become famous and rich.
I don't know if that's a secret. We talked about it in the first session.
Oh yeah,
it's
okay.
on the Notion.
It's on. I see.
It's like the first line.
Okay, but it was like a secret sense before we started, you know? Like
I guess.
And I think I folded really quick in terms of exposing that secret. But this is my secret not just from Product Like It's Friday. It's from like anything I do. Like my, kind of core desire is like, hey, what if, it's facetious. Like I don't, like it's fine. But I always, think about that here and there. What's your secret that you are willing to now bring into public view?
I want to retire. No, I'm kidding.
You want to retire? Hold on. No, you're not kidding. Hold on. Wait a minute. But which requires you to become rich and famous.
Yeah.
In order to retire.
So
you have the same rich and famous thing.
I think it's I want to be able to control how I spend my time.
Okay. That will not make you rich or famous, unfortunately.
And whatever means it takes.
Yeah, I think the rich and famous thing is a rather silly thing because I think I've done nothing to work towards it in that sense. Like, even look at the type of content that we make. This is not the type of stuff that goes viral. This is not the type of stuff that people...
But we talked about balls.
Okay, yeah, so we gotta clip that. We say, we gotta clip that, and we make zero clips. And so I think the drive to actually, it's more of a joke than the drive to actually pursue that. And I feel like it's fine. Because we're not, I'm not focused on building any of that content that either goes viral or turns you into a personality of any sort or what have you.
Yeah. Well, I guess one thing for me is I've tried to build stuff in the past, either by myself or trying to see with other people. So for me, it was just finding a person to collaborate with that fits more my style.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think it's a secret.
No,
I don't think we talked about it explicitly.
No, yeah. I think it's interesting to explore because, and maybe this is a bit deeper. Maybe you don't want to go into it, so it's fine. I feel like you shared with me some rules in the past that maybe you had written for yourself in terms of what you were looking for in terms of kind of creative collaboration, people that you're working with. When I read that, that felt to me, I'm going to use this word, it's probably the wrong word, so I don't want to say that. It felt to me stricter than rules I would have set. And then I'm curious to say, like, how you found that fit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I fit those rules. Because when I read it, I thought, that's not me.
I mean, I didn't know what I wanted.
Okay, that's fair. It's a very curious thing, you know, like, because I read it and I was like, okay, like, I didn't make much of it, but it was a thought that crossed my mind. It's like, you know, if you said job opening and here's the things, I would be like, I don't think I qualify for this.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was like, because my whole thing was about being way looser.
Yeah.
And I think then you had kind of this thing about, I think how we interpret words also, and I guess I don't want to get into too much detail about what you've written because I don't remember every word either. I just remember the sense I got from it. And I feel like you understand what maybe to some degree or level what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I feel like I present a much looser approach to things.
Yeah.
And it actually makes people uncomfortable because I feel like certain people think that approach doesn't result in product. But I'm so convinced that it does for me that I like, which is why I'm like, why do I have to follow these best practices you think work? Not what you'd put down, obviously, because I think they actually do work for you in many ways. But like, you know, at work or any other places, when someone says best practices, I'm saying, like, I tune out in a sense, and I'm thinking a lot of best practices don't work for me. So now you want me to structure around these presumed best practices that really aren't for me. And so, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting because, like, I feel like they're always changing as well as I learn more about myself.
Absolutely.
Like, one thing I learned more in the last 5-6 years, I want to say, is the balance between like structure and unstructured. Like, where is that?
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's not even fixed. Like, it's moving as well. Like, sometimes I need a little bit more structure, and other times like
Absolutely.
I'm like, no, I need to like make a mess first.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's like there's no point even like trying to find that balance to start.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I shared that with you more as like context.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also sort of like kind of a snapshot in time, as you said,
and
right?
a little bit of like what I think, like what I struggled with in the past when it comes to collaboration. Of like a big thing for me at the time was like just showing up.
Yeah.
Like showing up. Like right now, I feel like my only thing is showing up. Like that's all.
Yeah. But to me also, even when I said it was like, I said I might not show up. I did say that, didn't I?
But on Fridays.
I said sometimes even on Fridays, if one of us doesn't show up, it's okay for the other person to continue, right? I want to make that super explicit, and I had no idea of what your rules were before, but because I feel like it both allows you to show up while not restricting you, like not like make you feel like you're tied to always showing up. Like
you're not showing up just for the sake of showing up.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you miss, you're not feeling like, oh my god, I didn't show up, and now that it builds this sort of weird thing.
Yeah, I don't want it to ever feel like it's based on shame.
Exactly. And I think that and I was trying to structure it around looseness, which is like, hey, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. And if we don't want to do it and it fizzles out, that is also fine. Like, because sometimes you try to force something to happen that isn't there, and now you've never given yourself an opportunity to do something else as a result, because now you're showing up when maybe the right thing to do is not show up.
Yeah. And there's like other things you can be showing up for.
Yeah, like doom scrolling. like why am I
why am I building products?
Exactly. Or why am I showing up and not building product?
Yeah. How do you feel about, because we didn't take a break between Fridays at least.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine for us to take a break or not take a break, or depends on how we feel. I do think there's something about, when I think it takes a lot of momentum to get the ball rolling. But if you stop it, then there's a lot. Sometimes it takes less momentum to get going again, but sometimes it takes even more momentum. And I don't always know. And I do have that sense of fear of like, hey, if we full stop at some point, or there's a longer stop, will I need more momentum to get back into the rhythm? But I accept that also. Like I'm actually, while I fear it, that's a very realistic consequence that could happen. We build one product and that's it. Like, and we fizzle out. We build 2 or 3 or 10 and then we fizzle out, or we don't fizzle out. Like I think all those things are okay. And then we just don't become rich and famous because we quit too soon, and that's also okay. Yeah, I'm so not tied to the result in this case, either of the product that we're building. I know it's a weird thing to say, but or of like what it means in the whole thing. I don't have time to think about the meaning of the thing. Actually, I have a lot of time to think about it. It's just
you don't want to.
Yeah, it's just for what purpose?
You don't want to.
For what reason? Okay, but I have 2 thoughts about that actually. This idea of a streak that we had going, right? Like,
yes.
And with that I had going even more, like, like I had
it
for
was
30 days.
You.
Yeah. And I mean, it was in conjunction, but also it was, like I kind of kept it going because one, I didn't want to lose momentum. It wasn't about the streak, it was about the momentum. And I think once I felt sort of comfortable about getting the product to where I felt like, right at the, like near, it wasn't finished, but right kind of nearing that aspect. Like, and I think you'd asked me because we were traveling for this trip, about like, what's going to happen to the streak? And I was like, like, it's fine. Like, and you might think, oh no, because people say things, it doesn't matter, but maybe it does really matter. Did you think the streak in itself mattered to me?
I think because you did so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought it might
be a thing. Yeah, but it genuinely wasn't. Because there was a time I was like, you kind of, your whole essence of your body says it's fine, and I didn't do it, and then whatever, we did it, and we didn't. Like it's totally fine. And how did you feel about the break aspect?
I think streaks on their own suck.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't measure forward movement, not really.
Yeah.
So it's like streak as a concept, addicted to it, but it sucks.
Yeah, it plays into these like reward systems that reward the streak itself and not what you intend the streak for.
Yeah, like I still have not quit Duolingo.
Yeah.
Even though I've been saying I'm gonna quit Duolingo for months.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like it. It feels like being held hostage.
Yeah, and anytime if either one of us wants to or needs to take a break, okay, we take a break. Like it's fine. And if we remerge, it's fine. If we don't remerge, it's also fine. Like I think everything is actually fine.
Everything.
Not all at once.
Okay, cool. How did we get here?
What level are we on?
2, 3?
Medium?
3.
Still?
3, I think.
Okay. What's the highest level?
5.
Wow.
What do you think your biggest strength is? I think we're on 3 now.
My biggest strength is?
Professionally or personally?
My biggest strength.
Do you think about this? I feel like I've heard bits and pieces here and there.
Not contextually in that sense, like, as one might think about maybe.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't have to be the biggest.
Yeah, it's not so much the biggest strength. It's like, I definitely don't think of it that way.
Yeah. What's one strength
that I have is
that you feel proud of, maybe? Or do you not have feelings?
No, I have some feelings sometimes. Some feelings some of the times. That's the name of my movie. But I have. Yeah, I'm taking a second to just process it, if I may. My strengths. So at work, I can contextualize it, is probably hyper focusing on what I think will deliver value. which may seem like to others that I'm not focusing. Earlier in my career, and I don't mean super early, even mid in my career, I bought into other people's idea of what they said was Adnan's not focusing. And let that impact, I guess, even my belief about myself. And that's sort of like what my sense was. I was like, oh, and even in these like horseshit performance reviews I'd write, oh, how can I improve? I can improve my focus. And which was like, it wasn't true. I was doing important work that mattered. Maybe not to everyone equally, but I trust my judgment over other people's judgment, and that's why it's my judgment, and not like if I trusted their judgment, then anyway. So, and I feel like I have some results to demonstrate that. Like I feel I can't be like, oh, this is my strength, and then not have, especially when it's a strength that people may or may not feel that's counter to what they think. I feel like the results kind of speak for themselves for the most part. So I think that for sure. And then it's like, and the focus aspect actually upsets a lot of people, right? Because everyone wants everything all the time. Again, right? Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And you're disappointing a lot of people, which makes it a bit difficult to do and sort of manage in that sense. And I feel like I've done pretty good overall at that. Am I an expert? I don't know. It doesn't matter because I think the results are fine. Like I'm fairly satisfied with it. Could they be better? Sure. But I like it's good. Another strength, if I may, go into two, is, and this is very like psychoanalytical about myself, so whatever, which is great, is at work again. I like creating a nice work environment for the people I'm around, whether through my behavior or interactions, right? I think I am, by myself, a very serious person, but I feel like,
What?
Yeah, but I feel like if I am with other people, that's a waste of their time. And it's a better use of my behavior or my performance to engage in things that are focused on just like LOL. And
Wait, can we double click into that? So you're saying that you feel like your serious self is a waste of other people's time? Did I hear that
sorry.
correctly?
The phrasing was interesting. I think it may be a better use of feeling like I'm actually happy to disappear in a sense, like to not be as present as I tend to become. And I'm very aware of how that interacts and sort of, but I also feel like, so I feel a bit weird because I'm like, I sometimes would become a focus of attention more than maybe I would have wanted. But I think the impact of that on like team culture is net positive. And so I'm like, that's fine. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like the net
so.
positive of the
Yeah.
impact, I think is, whereas like I'd be just as happy not doing any of that.
If you're like selfish, like are there like things that you're like, I would do that if I don't care about
How do you mean?
I guess like if you didn't care about the impact on other people and the team culture, what does that look like even?
I think that the performance would change. And I don't mean performances, I don't mean to degrade, like we're all performing all the time and all of it is as I think authentic. So it just, I think there'd be a slight difference if I didn't value that interaction more. Yeah. What do you think my strengths are? No, sorry. How would you apply that to yourself? Not my strengths. Please
Okay.
don't. That was a joke. That was a joke. But if you really want to, please love to hear my strengths.
I would like to.
Really?
Yeah.
You have one strength.
I have one strength.
You get to talk about one strength.
Okay. I feel like you don't need other people's validations.
Mm.
So, I'm like, what's the point of sharing your strength? You know?
Information, data. Are you gonna finish that? Is data.
Okay. I feel like you are very good at like giving other people space to come to their own conclusions.
Okay.
Like, I feel like that's a good, I don't know, because like some of us are stubborn and just need to figure shit out ourselves, you know?
Okay.
And I think especially when it comes to like things that people can get defensive about,
Yeah.
it's like giving space is usually a better strategy than being like, hey, you should do this, or like if you see something clearly, you know, it's like sometimes it can do the opposite when you like point things out to people.
Yeah, and here's the hard part of perceiving that. I think the perception part is really important. It doesn't feel that way to me. I feel sometimes that I'm guiding people towards what I want more than their stubbornness, quote unquote, might allow. And it's a matter of perception, right? Although, I mean, I am aware of that to some degree. My instincts are not to do that. Actually, my instincts are my way, my highway kind of instincts.
So you're saying
like very instinctually, right? Because like who doesn't though, right? Like, don't you want your way? Isn't that the whole point?
So are you saying that you are aware that what you're doing is the like more likely to get the outcome you want? Am I exposing you on something?
Yes, but I think there's enough room for surprise here. I think it really serves both purposes, right? Where I think that so we can get work focused too. So I think that everyone should have an opportunity to some degree to prove themselves right. Okay, and when you're not managing that or in control of that, it becomes immensely frustrating. And this is from my own personal experience historically, right? Where I was like, when I was an intern at this company 20 years ago, I was bustling with ideas, right? And sometimes I'd be directed to do something. And, and we'd have discussions or arguments around it. And then eventually there'd be some sort of enforced direction to say, just do what I'm saying. And that's fine. I think there's definitely room for that. I do that quite a bit, I think. But here's what I did. Like the idea was way back when we had to improve the performance of some part of the code. And I was like, I think we should spend time on this. And I was being told to no, spend time on that. Mm-hmm. And so I did both. And my way was faster, got better results, was way better. And then I literally on a piece of paper, like spreadsheeted the piece of paper, drew a table. It was like, method A, method B, here's the impact in this, and this. And I left the numbers on my boss's desk and I said, here it is. And I think that's a really important thing for people to have. To say, all I really wanted was an opportunity to know if I was really right or wrong by attempting the thing. And then my job becomes, how much space is that worth? Because if I truly think this direction might not happen or it might not be the right one, then I have to say, okay, look, what's the cost here to the company and whatever else, or the product or users, whatever the case may be, to say, and then the impact of frustration is going to cause any given person who really believes in this thing. And so if you need like 2 months to prove this thing, then it's probably going to be my way. But if there's a way for you to demonstrate this in a shorter period of time, then I'd like to find a way to allow that, because that's what I would have wanted, for sure. I don't think it's even worth arguing at that point. I'd just be like, look, show me some evidence that this guy is closer. I don't believe it, But if I see the evidence, then what am I going to be like? No, your way is better, but we still need to do my way because I said it 20 minutes ago and I look like a fool. No, I'm actually happy to look like a fool if the results. I'm not happy to look like a fool, but I'll accept it if the results show that way. What was the question?
The biggest strength.
Oh, geez, how do we get here? What do you think is your biggest strength?
I think mine is curiosity.
Interesting.
Just like wanting answers.
Yeah.
Like, I think for an introvert, I'm also like fascinated by people.
Right.
And it's such a strange thing because like it almost feels like when I'm digging into why people do certain things.
Yeah.
It's almost like the introvert slips away.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think it's just curiosity about like mostly how people do things, a little bit about like how systems work as well. But I feel like I definitely lean more towards like the human interactions side of things, like what motivate people, what make people want to change.
Right.
I think as a designer, at least, that's a strength.
Do two more.
What?
She's like, I only have two. What are you talking about?
I only have one.
Yeah, this is it.
This is it.
We're gonna just.
Yeah.
I think one of your strengths. I think your only strength. I think one of your strengths is accepting constructive criticism. Well, which is not to say agreeing with it. People think accepting criticism is agreeing with the criticism, and there's but I think you accept constructive criticism. Which not to say it doesn't impact you internally. I think it does. I could see it, but I can see it. I can see it. 100%. I can see it. 80%. I can see it. But how you accept it, I think, is very remarkable. I'll give an example of this as well. Like. And I didn't do it, but I wanted to apologize to you in one of these, a thing I did in one of the either the second stream that we did. I thought about it a lot. I was like, gosh, should I even bring it up or talk about it?
Clearly.
It didn't impact you at all. Like, not even for you. I thought, and then I decided not to do it because I didn't think it'd be great content. Because I don't know. I think I was trying to see or get a sense of how you feel about it. And I was like, if I bring it up, it might make it weirder or not.
What was it?
Yeah, now I'm happy to tell you. Is you said, hey, when we did the honey pot concept and kind of decided how we're going to pursue building the thing, you had come up with like potential ideas. One of them was kind of a fast finger idea.
Yes.
And very instinctively, I reacted in my ways, like super strongly. And I said, we're not going to build that, are we? And I felt the air in the room drop. Okay? I was like, I was dismissive immediately. And I wanted to apologize for that. And I felt bad. Like I felt very bad. I was like, we just started this thing and I'm kind of blowing the wind out of a person's sail who like, put effort and energy into it, right? And I did a very shitty thing. And I didn't know how to approach that. And here's where I was a coward and I didn't bring it up. What do you think now I am? And I'm very afraid to hear the response here. I'm not. I don't know why even I'm doing this. We're an hour and a half into this. I'm like, hey. Because we're friends. Okay. And I'm, like there's internal cringes that I bring it up now for me. Because I know you felt it. I feel. And I didn't bring it up because I felt like, and I'll tell you why I didn't bring it up, and I'm not happy to hear your response. Is I felt like going in that direction might impact our momentum negatively than positively. And then I tried to cover myself by saying, if you design it, I will build it. And that was very true because I felt bad about reacting that way.
I see. Okay. So we're now getting the full picture.
Yeah, well, you're getting the full picture. I've had it for a while. I kept it here. Okay, we're not getting.
I'm getting the full picture. They're getting I don't think it impacted me as much as you probably thought.
God damn it! But it did. You felt something. You could not have not
It
felt
hurt
anything.
my feelings.
Yes, and I apologize for that. Even though
Thank
it happened a long time, and I apologize for also being a coward for not bringing it up sooner. Would you have preferred that I brought it up?
Yeah, I think so.
And I apologize for that. It was really hard for me, and
Like, why didn't you bring it up?
because I was a coward. What else? What other reason is there?
But why? What are you afraid of?
Just the.
What were you afraid of? This past version.
Yeah, I was afraid of impacting the momentum that we were in, and I was like, I was afraid of impacting them, but hard conversations are difficult, so I don't want to shy from that. Absolutely, I was afraid of having a difficult conversation, especially early on.
That's true.
And
That's fair.
but also of it's just I felt like I don't know what direction it will go in, but I also see that we're moving in a certain direction right now, and I want to continue that direction, and I don't know.
Okay, so there are like layers.
Yeah, I don't know which path this conversation leads to, but I can also see we're still moving forward. And I didn't know how to approach that, but definitely internally, I was avoiding a difficult conversation where I reacted impulsively, and I saw that I kind of impacted you for sure. And I did nothing about it. Think of shame, actually. Are we on the spicier questions yet? What are we doing?
Wait, why?
No, and I actively apologize, and this was such a shitty thing for me to do, for sure. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you for accepting my apology.
I release you from your shame.
That's all anyone ever wants to hear.
Well, first of all, I don't think it. I was also yes, I was excited.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this could be really cool.
Yeah.
And, but I also understand my own tendencies to do this thing where I'm like, oh, like there's all these shiny things that we can do. So I've done that to myself a lot of times.
Right.
So it's okay.
Yeah. No, I think for me, my perspective of reacting that strongly was the defensiveness around. I was like, oh my God, if we pursue this, we might not build anything.
Yeah.
But that happened so quick for me. That reaction was so instinctive, because that, in my sense, that's sometimes exactly, which is not to say we shouldn't pursue it, but I felt like.
But I think it was also early days.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like if that happened it did kind of happen with the project we're working on now, and we're just talking about it matter-of-factly more. Yeah. I'm I need de-scoping.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I know this is what I need.
Yeah, I think definitely allowed us to, probably would have happened anyway, but kind of get a sense of what the push and pull is going to be.
Yeah.
Because you're oh my God, maybe am I going, am I scope creeping too much?
Yeah.
And I'm oh my God, I'm pushing back too much. Right?
Yeah.
And there's some balance there where easily, I think you could have said, this guy's an asshole. You could have. Or I don't feel comfortable here.
No, I think it was layered in that there is the goal of moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think we were able to do that.
Yeah.
And because I see that it's a net positive. It was this was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I, to at least an extent, expected it as well.
Okay. Yeah. I just wish I wasn't as abrupt. It felt like it happened so quick to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Or look at us French, like it's Friday, I guess. Jeez, it's getting hot in here.
How does your identity shape how you show up in the professional, your personal identity, your background, personality?
I don't know. I don't think I really know. Maybe you can help me by stretching the answer for yourself? Like, how do you feel you're doing it?
I think I am more aware of other people who might share similar odd tendencies, I guess, like both in terms of like how to motivate people who might not be traditionally motivated by whatever, and like talents as well, like what they are good at, like what they need to succeed, and like I think that's part of like why I like doing some coaching stuff is like seeing like what each person is good at,
Mhm.
and then like amplifying that.
I guess I'm not making a connection here yet on how this idea of identity and then how it connects. Like, all that seems relevant. Is just how do you then say this is part of who I am?
I guess I'm thinking about it in terms of like being a woman of color. And having experienced different things, like I am more aware of where they show up, like in hiring, how people like interact with each other, how decisions are made. And I feel like I can be a better advocate because of it. And I'm grateful for that. Because it's like, obviously it's not a place of privilege, but it is a privilege to have had that experience to then be able to help other people.
For me, it turns out I've had the privilege to not be as active in that thinking. Let me put it this way, which is not to say I don't do it. I know I do it. I know I do it. Yeah, absolutely. But I try and find a time and place for it where it's easy for others that I'm doing it in to accept. Like, I'm trying to give it the best odds, if that makes sense. I'm trying to be vague on purpose in a sense, because like I don't want to give away my secrets, but
there are secrets.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But I think I've also upset a lot of people as a result. Fine. I mean, maybe I think I'm okay sharing it. I'm just looking like how many people are watching us. You know, like two, 4, because we're watching ourselves. So here's the thing about how I may go about doing something, right? Like, so I care about representation in general. So when you say, okay, look, I'm a woman of color, particularly like Asian, and there's other sort of intersectionalities along those lines, right?
That's the word.
And right, and
I was
so
thinking of like
and all these words, interesting enough, in our like cultural climate now are contentious, right? DEI and all that stuff. And I think identity is such a broad thing as well, because like some people identify as a football fan, right? And you were like, yes, and that's part of their identity.
True.
And it represents in how they behave.
Yeah.
It's just everyone is part of identity culture, but you don't think your identities are identity culture. But like, it's not like, you know, what people think when we say, oh, identity politics, people thinking about minorities. But identity politics is really about the majorities as well. It's about everyone. It's not you, like these are all identity culture related things. I don't know how we got here, but okay, this sounds very serious. What am I saying? Okay, so let's get back to how I would play something, because I think because you brought sort of the intersectionalities from a kind of a racial gender perspective. Okay, so it is important for me to work in not an environment that's diverse for diversity's sake. I know this will sound weird, but to work in an environment that's representative of the diversity that we live in. Okay, so like if I'm living in if I'm farming in central India, For example, I'm not going to be like, hey, we're short some white people here. Because for me, I think if people walking the streets, I think generally ought to be represented in your institutions, right? So in India, it actually becomes a case of the states, like we said, like they're so diverse, where people travel from a state to a different state, and that, like, it's not just about language, like these are racial identities even within India that are so intensely diverse, and there's so much, like the untouchables in India have a certain like representation issues. Like anyway, there's various levels, various intersectionalities. And so for me, a thing from a work perspective is I do care about having that represented in hiring practices or what have you, right? But it's super contentious because the moment you bring it up, people say, well, are we going to lower our expectations? I'm like, I can lower 0 expectations and accomplish this. Is that okay? Because these are not tied together, but people tie them together, right? And so the way I had approached in the past is to make it as fluid as I could. And it wasn't that fluid, but it was within my ability. Turns out I'm a hiring manager. So what are my hiring practices now? And I feel like for you to, like, if I'm hiring people who have the ability and the skill, I feel like I'm doing my job as a hiring person.
Yeah.
And my responsibility then becomes, hey, are certain communities who are in our streets who have the skills aware of what I'm hiring for? And even that allows us to be, allows us to grow. I think, if you want to get spicy, and a lot of people disagree with it. I'm a bit hesitant to say this.
You don't have to.
That's fine. I think that if you have people of equal skill, that's never a thing, first of all.
True.
But if you have people of equal skill, then I think if you hire someone with a higher privilege, that is also racial politics.
Yeah.
Right? But you're only accused of racial politics when you hire someone who's a minority.
Yeah. Yeah.
These are both equally racial politics indicators. And it's not uncommon to see, for example, if there was a startup of 20 people and they were all white men, nobody would blink an eye.
Yes.
I mean, they would in very small circles, but publicly, no one seriously blinking. No one with power is blinking an eye. That's the real thing. People without power will blink many eyes, of course. People with power not blinking an eye. But if you saw a startup that hired 20 Asian women, you'd be like, that's racism, right? People in power would say, that's racist. You're not going to get and so this idea of what is and isn't racist is very weird given what your stature is. And so I think your responsibility as a hiring manager is, I think all hiring managers ultimately build the environments they want, implicitly or explicitly. That's all I'll say. And they're all kind of represent all these things, whether it's racial, whether it's gender-based, whether it's whatever the thing is represented there. And definitely, if working wherever I work, if we were to just hire and it's not just I think it's also very easy for me to say white men because but the thing is people with power, people with representation, and people with that. Then if you hire 10 people in a row with similar power levels, then it's what are you doing? That is a pattern. And you feel like we're just hiring the best people. Send them I'll interview them. And I guarantee you're not hiring the best people. That's a lie. That's a lie you tell yourself in order to feel good about yourself. And so, anyway, I feel like I've said too much already. Sorry, I was a rant.
Spicy.
Is this what you wanted? Is this?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Wow.
It's juicy.
Wow. How do you feel about that?
It's spicy,
Mm-hmm.
but like I feel pretty aligned
Mm-hmm.
on that front.
Is there somewhere you feel you're not aligned? I'm curious. We don't have to talk about it because it's super contentious.
No.
Okay. It upset people.
For
I
sure.
know. Yeah. But also people leverage it. One more point is companies love plastering diversity in their posters and then also not doing much to then like actually like if it happens incidentally, they'll be like, look how diverse we are. And then internally kind of shitting on it in different ways. And that's like I found that super, super frustrating, or the level of discomfort. But at the same time, I did like when I was building a team, we had about let's say 15 to 20 developers, and at one point, I'm not saying look, this is just anyway, at one point we had like 50% were women, right? And it was a thing everyone internally was talking about in a sense, right? Like, and obviously there's a split case where some people felt really like uncomfortable about it for whatever reason. It's like, oh, we're hiring the best people, and those people are sexist. And vice versa, where people are like, oh, look at how diverse we are, or what have you. And that's, gender is just one aspect. I also think it's probably one of the easier aspects to address. I mean, look, none of them are as easy to address, but like, for example, if you were to say, if you add race on top of it, if you add like, you know, when I think it's also easy for me to say, oh, I like my working environment to represent what's represented in the streets I live in, and then like, there's no indigenous people that I'm working with, for example, or have hired. Like, what does that say about? One, it says something about society and the opportunity that are created in that, and then also what are my hiring practices kind of representative of these things. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah. I feel like there's also like never the right answer.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I also feel like if I was ever like, oh, I'm now instituting a DEI program, right? But how about I just do the things that result in fair but equitable hiring. For example, if I'm getting like 30,000 resumes, how are you filtering your resumes? Your pipeline will decide who you hire a lot of times. And so the fairness of your pipeline, because like, look, the order in which you interview people matters, right? And every place we're like, it's connection based, right? Right. A lot of it, like look at people, I don't know, spending a lot of time. Let's go look at all the like people have hired in the past or whatever, people or you work with, whatever. Is that fair? Should I not review 100 resumes before I hire anybody I know from before in order to be fair? Because I think fairness is super weird, right? Should I not? Is it unfair? I think so.
Yeah.
But it's acceptable.
Yeah.
And like slipping a resume into the top of the pile will mean that those people probably get hired because you start from the top of the pile and you move to the bottom. So if you're able to fill your pipeline if you're able to make your pipeline diverse or randomize it so that the occurrences will happen better, then you're also like, and here's how you maintain these standards that people that are, you know, sexist or racist will bring up is not people, excuse me. I think the question itself is racist or sexist, and the people are kind of just a vessel for delivering it. They themselves don't consider that, right? Like maybe they haven't thought about it, maybe their understanding of it is different. So, sorry.
I feel like there's also like a gap between intentions and how they land.
Yeah.
And sometimes like people can have good intentions and it's still
Yeah.
not great.
I'm not an intentions person.
Okay.
Yeah. And as I think that your intentions should only matter to you. And the moment you say I have good intentions
Yeah.
and you say it publicly, you're deceiving other people and yourself.
It doesn't
Because-
absolve you from.
Exactly. Look at your impact. Your intentions, I'm not saying they don't matter. I think they should matter to you. And the moment you involve others, you should be looking at your impact. You could have the best intentions and create havoc. Are you a good person? Questionable. But your intentions are amazing. You're trying to help people, but you're just causing problems. And you could have people who have the worst of intentions, but everyone around them is flourishing and happy. Do their intentions matter?
Yeah.
Debatable. I don't think they matter at all, in fact.
I feel like intentions sometimes is used as an excuse. I mean, at this point, it's no longer just about hiring too. It's just like
It's for everything,
workplace
interactions.
behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I could, if I, even early in our conversation, I could have said my intentions were this or that.
Mm.
But my
Yeah.
impact doesn't change. How you felt doesn't change.
Yeah.
So what do my intentions matter? And never did I bring up what my intentions were.
Yeah, that's true. Like in that example, it's like I feel like I had enough trust to know that
Yeah.
you're not intending to.
Yeah,
hurt my
and that's
feelings.
exactly, and that's the benefit I had.
Yeah.
But my intentions, even to me, they're irrelevant. What does it matter? Who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, and one thing I like in it is like, if you're in a store and you turn around and you break a vase, you're responsible for the impact. You could be like, oh, I didn't intend to. Of course you didn't intend to.
You break it, you buy it.
Exactly. But your impact,
Yeah.
your consequences dependent on your impact, not on your intentions. I didn't intend to break it. Okay, great. I guess you walk away scot-free then. No,
Yes.
compensate. Sorry, this has been a long-winded thing, but okay, fine.
Okay.
But I don't think about it much.
How do you make decisions about things that have no right decisions for? Like there are no right way. I know this is a bit of an abstract.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I think based on the impact that they may or may not have. Do we have friends?
I think we have friends.
Oh, you're looking at.
I'm looking at the reflection.
Yeah, we're in the office and we're hearing sounds. Based on the impact, I think based on the discovery, like am I able to take a decision that helps me discover closer to right or wrong? Isn't that like, how do you approach it?
Yeah, I think we can only make the best decisions we can given the context that we have in each moment.
We're nodding to people off camera.
Acknowledging
Their
existence.
presence, yes.
And sometimes it means gathering more information to make a decisions.
Yeah. But I feel like you structured the question in a particular way that I don't know if your current answer is keying into it. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. Is there something else there that you feel like, like how do you struggle with that?
Well, I feel like there's also times that a decision needs to be made
Yeah.
without having the time and space or whatever to gather more information, which is when sometimes making a decision is more important than what the decision is. If that makes sense?
It does, but I think without a specific, I find it hard to really contextualize and like specify it because, I mean, we have to make a decision. That's like,
Yeah.
like what if I don't have to make a decision? Can I just not make a decision?
But indecision is a decision.
Sure, and I'm deciding to be indecisive. I've made a decision there.
Yeah.
But you're not satisfied with that.
But like, how do you like not choose? I guess how do you like make a decision that is not indecision? I feel like I'm just.
But
going
why
in
is
circles.
indecisiveness bad? Why have we decided that indecisiveness is necessarily a thing we want to avoid?
Well, oftentimes, I think indecision leads to negative consequences.
I don't know if I have enough to agree or disagree with that, which means I don't know if I agree, but I also don't know if I would disagree otherwise. So like, I'm actually not sure how to respond, actually.
Trying to think of an example.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be difficult. It's just very hard for me to process. I know what you're saying instinctively, but I think it's unfair to answer in a certain way that, like, like that's layered in all these assumptions. And so, like, can we remove some assumptive layers here?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, first of all, every day we're making
Yeah.
decisions, big or small. Every single day, you decided to do this. I don't know if you regret it.
No, I don't. I regret everything. So yes, I guess I do regret it, but I might have regretted. All leads to regret. All roads lead to regret. So that's fine. It's not a factor.
And I think it's more about like, how do you accept? Maybe this is not answering the question, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, which is why I'm here to kind of like enforce this, like kind of push you. I even called it out super early. I was like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. I think to me, I asked this question because I feel like I'm not very good at making decisions. Okay, not good or bad. More just like indecisiveness is something that I struggle with, and to me, there have been more negative consequences out of that indecisiveness.
That's something I can't argue with.
And sometimes the more important thing is to accept a decision regardless of where it leads.
Yeah. I think sometimes.
But how do you decide?
Yeah. But what if you change your approach? And I'm exploring here. I'm not necessarily saying this is my point of view. I'm just sort of putting words together, which is like, what happens if you accept your indecisiveness? Right? What are the real consequences? Because part of the consequences, in my view, are perhaps how you feel about your indecisiveness, not just the consequence of how you feel about it. But what if you remove the layer of feeling? Would you now view the concrete consequences, not to say feelings aren't concrete, but the physical consequences maybe don't matter that much? Like, I don't know, are you able to feed yourself? Like, you have shelter, you have so it's fine maybe. So maybe it's fine. I know it's a very cavalier attitude to have, and it's not everybody's in that space, but I'm just saying it to present a certain view for you to react to.
Yeah, maybe.
Because I think sometimes I am okay with indecisiveness, so I'm comfortable with this idea that, maybe the consequence may or may not be important, but if the consequence is important and you're indecisive, like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to process that way.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I find it difficult to contend with that.
Yeah. I think this is more spicy for me right now
Let's go.
than it is for you.
This is what I wanted.
Like one thing, for example, that I worked a lot during therapy with is I was put in a situation where I had to make difficult decisions relating to my mother's health.
Yeah.
And no matter what, it was like impossible. It felt impossible to decide one way or another. And that was something that I spent so much time just thinking about, beating myself up in the, different ways of could I have made a better decision? Is my indecision for a certain period of time, what that led to? And that was something that I'm like, okay, I don't want, like, if I am put in that situation again, I would probably do things differently. And because I want to do things differently, I'm like, how do I do things differently? Maybe there is no like process either.
Yeah.
Like, maybe it's just like maybe it's supposed to be super hard.
Yeah. One way that I view it, and I'm not asking, like, I'm not sure how much of a follow up question I can ask to that because you share something sort of deep and personal, and so I don't know. I don't know if I can put you in a spot, but one way so I'll offer how I look at it and maybe hear your response to that is, and maybe this is me making an excuse for myself, so I recognize the sort of flakiness of what I'm saying.
You've added a lot of asterisks.
Yeah, because it's weird. I think once something happens, it could not have not happened. And it helps me a lot in accepting my behaviors and other people's behaviors as well. Because then I'm spending a lot of time thinking about what could have been done different when nothing could have been done different in those situations. Maybe this is true or not. I'm just saying this is my perspective.
Okay.
And I think, which is not to say we don't think about the future, because I'm not saying it was destined to happen. I don't have all the answers, please. I'm not saying it was destined to happen, and I haven't reconciled everything here. Right? This is hard, but I'm saying once it happens, it could not have not happened.
Yeah.
So I'm not excusing the future, right? Like that specific phrase doesn't excuse the future, and it allows me space for myself to not beat myself up over the past, but focus on kind of the future for myself and others, actually. But it's hard to do because I'm not saying, oh, I never judge the past for me and other people. I'm doing it all the time. I'm just saying this framework allows me to accept and like catch myself maybe 1% of the time. It's not overbearing. I don't know if it relates to what you're saying specifically, but this idea of like, I weirded out something different. And when I look back at the mistakes I've made, I don't think I would have done anything different in those situations because that's what I did.
Yeah, but how do you like carry that forward to the next time a hard and important decision needs to be made? Yeah.
So I might make a lightness of this, and it just because sometimes you hear someone say, "I won't make that mistake again." I feel like they probably will, and I think because it's so hard to learn from one mistake, and we're so hard on ourselves to be like, "I'm never gonna make that mistake again." And the thing is, you probably are, and it might take a few more mistakes for you to learn. The awareness is important. But the idea of changing immediately is so much pressure, even for yourself. Even at work, I hear like, oh, I made this mistake. And, like we all make mistakes. I hate making mistakes, of course, but I'm making them all the time. So my judgment of you also and the mistakes you make must like if I never make mistakes, I'd be much more like, harder on.
You also must not make mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah. But how can I judge like your mistakes if I'm making mistakes? And the idea of making a mistake again, and anytime I hear it, either work or otherwise, I'm like, I don't know if you've made that mistake enough times to really internalize what mistake you really made. And we could kind of, color it with like discussion and help the awareness for sure. But it actually, like, depending on the severity of the mistake, and its ability to happen again. Obviously, there's certain things that probably never happen again in that same context, and that's a mistake you made, and like it's unfortunate, and or when you feel like you made it, or whatever. And we're saying mistakes, but indecisiveness, whatever the case may be. And it's hard to reconcile that because you're like, that was my one chance, and that's so difficult. But at the same time, you will again. I've made the same mistake many times. What am I going to do? Like, beat myself again? The impact on other people matters. Your impact, like, obviously, all those things matter. But we're not like these perfect beings all the time, just perfecting perfection in every step that we make. This is just like a
unrealistic.
yeah, like
expectations.
then but we like to behave that way because we want to appear competent, like we said earlier, right? That's one aspect of it.
It's all coming back.
We want to appear correct. It's so important to us, and those things can be important to us, and at the same time, accept that we won't live up to that all the time. And okay, fine. Like I don't know, like I ate today. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that didn't, and I'm like, oh my god, these mistakes I made. So there's a severity and seriousness of some mistakes, obviously, and they line up differently with other things. And so when it gets interpersonal or familial and stuff, it's so much harder. And I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's also like I actually don't think of them as mistakes at all.
Yeah, I know that I kind of wanted to backtrack on the mistake word, but like, what would you call it?
Like a fork.
Yeah. But the idea of mistake is still relevant, don't you think? Because you feel like, because the idea of a fork is, hey, this fork is better than this fork, and having taken one fork was a mistake, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Like it's related.
Yeah,
it's not precise.
It's implicit.
Yeah, the word isn't precise enough. I agree, but it's maybe indicative of like the feeling.
It's like failure.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Fear of like, I guess facing negative consequences of like a wrong path.
Yeah, and
wrong path.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like, and I don't know where I read this, but the people talk about accountability a lot, personal life and at work, and it's used in a way to really constrict people and put pressure on people. But the kind of the second side of that accountability coin, if accountability was heads, tails is learning. And a lot of people will enforce accountability without creating space for learning.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've sort of diverged from how you started the question and everything. But even for yourself, sometimes you hold yourself accountable without creating room for yourself to learn. It's worse when somebody else kind of does it in a work environment, you feel a different way, but it's also worse when you do it personally for yourself. And sometimes it's hard for yourself. Like, I think if someone else did it to you, you'd recognize it. Mm-hmm. You'd be like, you've held me accountable, but you're not giving me the space to learn and improve. But when you do it to yourself, it's actually much harder to see that you're not providing yourself the space to learn. So I'll never make this mistake again, or this, fork in the road kind of situation. But you actually might need to before you get to the next level of learning. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore, to be honest. Do you not feel that way? A little bit?
A little bit.
We're being vague and whatever, but I feel like I've said things and you've said things.
Okay, yes.
What level of spice are we on?
4.
How much longer we've done 2.5 hours almost.
I feel like maybe 20 minutes.
Okay.
When did you start thinking of me as a friend? Instead of just someone you knew. And maybe this is more like you need to backtrack a little bit.
What level of spice is this?
4.
There's more. And 5 is highest?
Yeah.
There's more spicier questions?
There's also like the asterisk of like, I think of them as different levels.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the date. I want to be precise. I want to be like, May 6th.
Specific date.
Yeah, May 6th, 2024. That was today.
Okay. What happened on May 4th?
Listen.
Is this the part where you lie?
Maybe this is the part where I'm telling the truth and I've been lying for the rest of the time. I mean, obviously, I don't even think of it that way. It's not like, I think there's like this is I'm going to say the dumbest thing if I may. You know how electrons work?
Like,
nobody knows how electrons work.
No.
That's the whole point. But the idea, did you do physics in?
Did not.
Oh, okay. So maybe I can describe something,
Okay.
and I won't go too deep into it, which is like when we look at electrons, especially when we're trying to learn the basic sense of electrons, we think of them as very discrete kind of physical entities. And closer to this, but the idea is that's not what they are, really, if they are a thing at all. But that's a representative model we use in order to make it easier to understand.
Okay.
Okay. But closer to the truth is that they're more of an electron cloud. And it becomes harder to know where it ends and begins. That's my point. So I know I kind of went a large sort of this idea of like, but, and I might be wrong about electrons completely. I'm not a scientist. I've only heard one interview about electrons. Okay. I don't know.
Is this a YouTube
I watched one Veritasium video. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And so now I'm an expert. I'm comfortable being like, if you're like coding, I'm like, I don't know. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm an expert. I don't know. But I saw one video about electrons, and I feel like I'm Malcolm Gladwell right now.
Well, you know more about electrons
right?
than I do.
No,
so.
but if somebody who knows about electrons would be like, this guy is talking out of his ass. And that's how I feel about Malcolm Gladwell when he talks about open source software.
Okay.
Everything connects.
Well, regardless if that's correct or not.
But the story is relevant, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think it's also funny of like this idea of when things begin and end. It's like, when did you start to think of me as a friend? Is not like, it's a range, you know what I mean? And I made a joke about the specific date for that reason to like kind of diffuse the answer.
Like, that's a non-answer.
Did I just said I not answered. I diffused the answer.
Well, like my follow-up was gonna be like, was there like I don't know, even like a vague sense?
I'm trying to think, honestly.
Because like, I feel like for me, it's very like I had trouble making friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so we are friends? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Sorry, please continue. I interrupted there. Yeah, you said you were saying you had trouble making friends.
I always had trouble making friends growing up. I don't know what it is. I think partially it's like feeling like I'm always just a little bit off. Just like a little bit like I didn't do the things that a lot of other kids around me were doing, and like I liked things that people thought were boring, you know, like I like spending a lot of time by myself, and I needed, I think, the time by myself to like decompress and process things, and I think it like stayed with me into adulthood as well. And I think for a while I felt like it was a deficit.
Okay.
Like it was a character flaw.
Yeah.
Like a character flaw. Because I see how nice it could be to like make those connections. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to just like make connections for the sake of like,
sure,
you know, like now I have friends.
Yeah, friendship FOMO.
Friendship FOMO. And like in my young adulthood, I experimented with changing myself to get those friends and whatever. And then like eventually I always get to a place where I'm like, it's not worth it anymore to like continue to be who I'm not.
Sure.
So for me, it's actually like it takes often a long time for me to start thinking of someone as like a real friend.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the context.
So when did
So you want my answer first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I not answered it. I diffused, you know?
Okay. I think, well, like going back to...
Because just so you know, sorry to interrupt again. Whatever you said I'm going to say was before that for you.
Oh my God.
I want to leave my intentions clear. So please continue.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding, but please continue.
I think for me, it was like when... I don't think... So we worked together, obviously.
Yeah.
For about a year. It wasn't that long, actually.
About a year, yeah.
About a year. when was this, like 2021, 2022?
Mhm.
And I don't think we kept in touch when I, like, right away
Sure.
at first when I left that company.
Yeah.
I think I had intentions to keep in touch.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but
Sorry.
yeah. But it was more like, like I'll reach out when I remember, or like
Yeah, absolutely.
when something comes
Absolutely.
up that like reminds me.
Mhm.
And I think we only got in touch when you also left that company,
Right.
and shared it on LinkedIn, and was like, I think you were like, oh, like, now I'm free to talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I remember like booking. I checked my calendar too.
Yeah.
I remember like because I was like did I reach out? Like I don't remember
Mhm.
what happened exactly. I think I like just booked the like whatever you use.
Yeah, Google Calendar. Yeah.
And we just had an initial like catch up.
Yeah.
And I think in that call, I mentioned this idea of like, oh, like what if we check in every couple months? Or something
Yeah,
like that.
absolutely.
And I think we did that for a little while as well. And at some point, I don't actually know when this is. I don't have a date.
Mhm.
But at some point, I was like, oh, this is pretty fun.
Yeah, there's friendship potential.
Yeah, there's friendship potential. Level up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I remember just like, well, first of all, not everyone I say like, oh, like how do you feel about like booking a quarterly, like even a quarterly
Mhm.
check-in with? Not everyone feels comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Yeah.
Because it feels kind of like, I don't know, commitment-y.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like I would feel kind of like, oh, like what are we doing?
And you have to go off.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And because like for me, it was more like I struggle with like remembering that I even have friends.
Yeah.
To like even friends that I've developed friendship with, I'm like, oh, I forget they exist.
Absolutely.
And it's almost like a reminder.
Yeah.
To reach out and like to just checking sometimes. So I think we did the quarterly for a while, and then we were like, okay, like I think it was also me that was like, okay, like should we like can we do this a little bit more frequently?
Yeah.
That was when.
Oh,
that was around when
okay.
I was like, okay, I feel like we're friends now.
Yeah. I think honestly, I had kind of forgotten the part of me sharing that Google Calendar. Like, I mean, I obviously remember us setting up quarterly to like. I got
How did you feel about the quarterly?
I got the quarterly upgrade first, and then I got the monthly upgrade. I got on the monthly plan, friendship plan, and then I got the weekly friendship plan actually, like part of it Friday. I gave you. Okay, although I think I proposed the weekly friendship plan technically, or the weekly
That's true.
friendship plan.
No.
Yeah, like the melding of the two. Yeah, I think it's such a fluid process, to be honest.
Did you feel weird about the quarterly thing?
Yeah, but I think there's so many factors to weirdness, right? And I think it's sometimes it is a fine line and sometimes it isn't. I think the thing itself is kind of weird, right? That's what the thing is. It feels very different from how you would define keeping in touch or friendshipness in a different time, right? If you were, so therefore it feels weird in and of itself. But I think.
So why'd you say okay?
Because maybe I already considered you a friend.
Oh no.
I did it. I did the thing I said I would do. Is I would define friendship sooner than whatever you said. No, I enjoyed working with you, right? And so in the same way earlier with kind of like my strong pushback on the thing, and you were like, hey, would like like you were heard, but there was a context for that where so it's weird, but there's a context for that weirdness. So like I think weirdness matters in a context and its impact. So the impact of the weirdness wasn't that weird.
Okay.
Let me just say. And it was like, okay, well, this is a person I know who wants to keep in touch regularly.
Yeah.
That
Okay,
seems
so-
fine.
Okay, I see.
Like it's a weird, like it is generally not done in this way, shall we say. Because it's not like we're doing like a coaching session, right? It's not doing like it's a friendship session. It's a little different, but but people do it actually. People are like, hey, every whatever we're gonna go and watch the game every week, for example, right? That's a scheduled friendship thing. It seems more natural, but also I think both these things are equally natural.
Yeah, I guess like it feels. Whenever I do this, I am pretty aware of how weird it is.
Yeah.
As well, but I'm also like I feel like I have enough awareness to know that I don't think I will get to know someone by going to, I don't know, watch a game, for example.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Or like going to the beach.
Or
like,
go to a club and
Yeah.
you're like spitting on each other to talk to each other. And it's like, what are we doing?
So I think I was just like, that was the most natural form that came to mind. And
But I think we've been in enough like interactions previously. Okay, fine, there's a gap or whatever. But we've been sort of in, whatever meetings we were in, where we were.
Yeah.
There was friendliness, right? Which is that electron cloud. We're on one edge of this like friendliness cloud, and.
But you were also my boss.
Yeah, but that's your problem. That's not. I mean, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
That's obviously I understand that, but it's not. It's not.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it's hard to kind of process in that way.
Is there any dream or goal you tend not to share with other people? I feel like there's many.
How dare you, first of all? How dare you? You don't know me.
That's right.
Goals that you meant to not just share with people, huh? I'm trying to think. It's like, there's things you want to do, there's things you want to do in the past, maybe you don't want to do them anymore. And they're not all like, I'm not as organized as you. I'm like very, like, even though you think you're not as organized, but you're like leaps more organized than I am. Can we agree to that? Okay. And so for me, it's like, I think it is a fairly fluid thing. And so maybe I've actually forgotten some of these goals altogether. Or now like, but am I containing any secret goals at the moment? I don't even know, to be honest. Like, I feel like here's the thing. There's layers to everyone, right? And some people are like, oh, I didn't know you did that. It happened today. And so that's everybody. And so like, it's like, I don't know, like, I don't like announcing things.
Why?
People argue that I do like announcing things just because of how visible I tend to be in certain spaces, and I'm totally aware of that. But I think I do it way less than they think. Okay, I'll say this, and this is a super big ego boost for me, or like my own perception of myself. I know I take up a lot of space, one way or another. I don't talk a lot in communications. But I think, and I hope, that I listen well as well. That's my hope. And generally, people don't associate those listening skills with someone who takes up that much space. They automatically assume because you take up space, you're not listening. My perception of myself is that I tend to listen more than other people you think might listen more. This is my perception, okay? I don't know how we even got here, sorry.
How I got here?
How I got here, that's what I'm saying. 100%, I don't even know how I got here. I think I had it trained in my brain that connected the two, and then I lost it. But do I have any secrets? Yeah, maybe, but I don't consider them secrets. It's just you don't happen to know about them, is what I'm saying. And so that perception of like, oh, this person is this or isn't this, or is mysterious or isn't mysterious, which I've been told before. I'm like, I don't know, like, is there a time limit where you know all of me? You know what I mean? And the same thing with you. I feel like I don't consider it mysteriousness, and I find it weird when people, because I have heard that before. But like, what, you want me, like, come on, I'm
Brain dump everything.
yeah, like I'm already talking myself up a lot. You want me to do more? That's absurd. I have limits.
So there isn't like things that you deliberately like,
keep secret.
Don't want to talk about with other people.
I want to talk about myself all the time.
Okay. Thus we are here.
But that seems unreasonable. Okay. So I'll be like, hey, I have 10 opportunities to bring this thing up that I did or I am or I want. I'm like, ugh, that's enough. And then the 11th time I feel like, oh, this is relevant. So I'll bring it up now.
So if it's relevant.
Yeah, but maybe it might have been relevant in the past, and I might purposely hold back. So I'm trying to answer the question of like holding back purposely, because I feel like, again, because I'm taking up space. That's why I brought up the space thing. Because I have some awareness of how much space I'm taking. I'm like, is this the right time for even more space? I already feel like I've exceeded the amount of space I should be taking. I'm running on extra right now, and now you want me to say more? That's silly. So this can wait. It can wait years, right? It can wait decades. What does it matter? Like, I have to really get everything out. Does that make sense? In a way, like, because I'm taking a lot of space, I need to not take more space, is what I feel.
You're very self-aware.
That's just your opinion. But no, does that make sense though? Like, I'm almost looking for the validation of like, not personal validation.
Not giving you
I don't need it. I don't want it. Even though I said I just want it. But that I'm making sense. Not that I'm correct.
Yeah.
But then, like,
I think,
and that explains why there's sort of this layeredness of information. But I think it's also true for you, but it's easier for you to see it in another person than it is to see in yourself, because I don't necessarily see that in myself on a regular basis. It's more interesting in other people than we find in ourselves. There's thousands of layers to you that I'm unaware of, and I don't feel like you're keeping them secret necessarily, or not. But you may be and you may not be, and I think all of those are okay. Your representation of yourself also, like, if I had only known you through, let's say, things you've written, I would make a picture of you that's very specific to what you have written. But you're beyond that. And I think we struggle with understanding that the people are under us are far beyond the interactions we have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I have that understanding. The thing is, it's natural. Like, naturally we behave this way because it's easier to do so. It's less involved. And I behave this way most of the time. But then sometimes you got to go, wait a minute, I have to allow for you what I allow for myself. And what secrets are you hiding?
everything.
All at once?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
I think I tend to not share goals in general because they might change, I guess.
Yeah.
And also, like, I feel like vocalizing them, I don't know, put unnecessary pressure
I agree.
sometimes. Yeah, that's it.
On that note, like, I feel like sometimes people have something. It's like, oh, you should announce this so other people keep you accountable. And I think I think it works for a lot of people. It works the inverse for me. I'm like, you're gonna hold me accountable? Who are you? Who do you think you are to hold me accountable? And I'm less likely to do the thing if I'm like kind of creating this accountability shield or whatever the case may be, where I feel like, okay, look, like, again, I think historically it's been different and I put a lot more pressure on myself, but I'm like, what am I proving to you or to myself? Either way, I'm like, I'm fine if I do the thing and I'm fine if I don't do the thing. I just don't want to be accountable to anyone. It's true, I actually don't. I want to be accountability, like, to anyone in a sense, like for these specific things, not like, I think we're all accountable to society or whatever. But like for these personal projects or what have you, like, it's fine.
Okay, cool. Last level. When wa-
Oh no.
when was the last time you talked about your feelings?
I think I talk about my
You
feelings all
talked
the
about
time.
your feelings today.
I think I talk about them more often than people think, and I represent them in a certain way. I think I'm talking about my feelings fairly often, but I think I'm more aware of my feelings than I portray.
Why? Like, why do you portray differently than?
I feel like it's enough for me to know. Like you know, I think it's enough. I did it. I think I sat with my sadness, or I enacted my excitement, or whatever the case may be. And I think that's fun. I think that's good enough for me. And I don't know whether I need to be like a feelings cloud necessarily. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel the need for that. Now, I think it definitely helps builds bonds or friendships, right? And that's why people sort of create a room for that. But why are you asking this question? Actually, I'm actually curious, because I think historically there's been a sense of like you trying to get me to talk about my feelings specifically. And so in the question is implicit that I don't enough. Because you're like, when was the last time? It was today, hours ago. It was during this stream I talked about my feelings.
Yeah.
Okay? How dare
Well,
you?
I feel like sometimes like I can guess like what you might be feeling. But I think there is value in naming it as well.
To whom?
To yourself.
I did it. I told you I've processed it. You don't trust me that I have then? Because if there, so maybe you feel there's value to you, or you don't think I've actually processed my feelings, and therefore I'm missing the value to myself. Is that a fair question?
Maybe.
Right? Because you're saying, hey, there's value to naming it, and I'm saying, I did it in here. In here, whatever, wherever here is, I did it in my knees, like.
Okay.
And so.
I mean,
Mhm.
At the end of the day, I can't read your mind.
No, I think the idea of feelings to me is also very fluid, and I think we've had this conversation before, where like, in any given time period, within an hour, sometimes I will feel a wide range of emotions. So when you ask me how I feel, where do I begin and end? Am I sad because I felt sad
in that moment?
30 minutes ago?
In that moment.
But in the moment the question is being asked, I might feel like fine.
Fine is not a feeling. What does fine mean?
I know what I did there, but I agree. But what I mean, what some essence of like kind of, I think it just feels like a more fluid process to me, where I to me, and I'm not a feelings expert, right? Even though I've been feeling feelings all my life, but I feel like I process them to a certain degree. I hope that got recorded.
What's happening?
Is that outside or inside?
Are we being kicked out?
I'm just checking out who's in the building. I'm the building manager.
Hi, yeah, we're just doing an online thing, and we're gonna.
No problem. Because I was just checking. Because sometimes you forget the lights.
No worries, we work here, and we're good. Thank you. Live.
We're almost done.
Feelings.
Yes. We can skip.
No, it's fine. I'm happy to explore it. Is happiness a feeling? When I say I'm happy to, I'm not feeling happy. It's more like an indication. But feelings.
How are you feeling right now?
I mean, so obviously we've discussed a wide. This is a trap. I know it. Nice try. I'll be fine.
what's contained within the fine?
Okay, when you say how you're feeling,
Yeah.
help me out. What are you looking for?
Why does that matter?
Because I don't feel like I've satisfactorily answered that question
No.
to a degree where you feel like I've shared a feeling. Which is the truth, right? You said like you said, fine is not a feeling, so you know what a feeling is, and you're looking for a feeling. So help me understand.
Like, what's in the mix? Like,
What would be a type of answer to how I'm feeling or how you are feeling? How are you feeling right now?
how am I feeling?
Yeah.
Feeling pretty good.
So good is a feeling, but
No,
fine
I'm
isn't?
not done.
Oh, sorry, I apologize.
I feel pretty happy to be having this conversation.
Okay, yeah.
I feel I feel like I'm getting to know you more,
Okay,
which is neat.
okay, cool.
It piques my curiosity a little bit.
Okay, but that's not a feeling.
That's not a feeling.
Sorry, I know I'm trying to
Not a
like,
feeling.
you
That
know,
is not
I'm trying
a
to do what
feeling.
you
This is
did,
true.
actually. I'm on the defensive here, of course.
I'm also feeling tired.
That's not a feeling.
Yeah.
We can Google that.
There's definitely at least a touch of discomfort because
Okay.
I feel like we are charting some uncharted territories.
Sure.
But overall, I'm like pretty relaxed and calm about it.
And it is hard for me to process what of what you've said are feelings in the way that
But I don't think it needs to be like.
someone might say their feelings.
But I don't think it needs to be like a list of adjectives. if
Sure.
that's what
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like. More just like, here are the layers, I guess,
Yeah, I think.
that I can tell.
Excuse me. No, I get that. I think sometimes it's like, but that's a very wide-ranging summary. I feel like you've given of the last 3 hours, right? But it's not what you're feeling right now, then, is it? Because I feel like we were feeling discomfort at some point.
Yeah.
We were feeling elation at some point. We were feeling, but so just to say what we're feeling right now is a little specific and kind of like, I feel like I'm throwing you for a loop in terms of like trying to kind of pinpoint the nowness of the feeling versus which is what I was talking about earlier, the range of the feeling. So, and I am not sure, and for me, I'm feeling, again, I don't know how to explain. I'm feeling a lot more than the moment a lot of the times. Sometimes I'll feel sad about something, even in this conversation, completely unrelated to this conversation. And so and it would be for like a specific period of time, whatever range of that feeling emerges and dissipates. And so I'm like, is that relevant information to this conversation of feeling? It's true.
I think
It's true. So you'd have me say that 15 minutes earlier, I felt sadness because I missed the bus in whatever thing, and therefore I missed something. You know what I mean? It's like it's a feeling that I felt, but I don't know how it's relevant to the answer. How are you feeling?
Does it need to be relevant?
I don't know, but I feel like it does because I've been asked about it, and now like, what's the range of sharing these feelings that like answers the question? And I find it hard to.
But I don't think
I understand what you're saying. I
I
think
don't think it needs to be like a perfect answer.
I agree with that. Yeah, you're right, and my behavior doesn't indicate my agreement with that. Like, I don't behave that way necessarily, because I'll kind of like filter.
Like, you're overthinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like,
Like, how do I concisely and
relevantly answer this question of a feeling.
Yeah.
Versus like, when someone asks you how you're doing, sometimes they want to hear that your knee hurts and your back hurts, and sometimes they want to hear like, I'm fine. You know, and what's the range of that? And maybe that's what ranges of friendships kind of indicate and open you to say one thing or another. But if every time you ask me how I'm doing and I say my knee is hurting, it's a bit weird because my knee is hurting all the time. See what I mean?
Oh.
And so the relevancy and the impact of that indication, while true and complete, is not always relevant. Like I tire of that answer, right? People are like, how's your knee doing? I'm like, it's still bad. Please stop asking. I don't say please stop asking, but you know, like they mean well. And so I want to answer truthfully,
Yeah.
but it's just, I think to me, it feels like I've already processed my knee pain.
But I feel like, first of all, I'm sorry that you missed your bus. If that was,
that was a fake example I made. It was.
okay.
Just for, you know,
Okay.
example purposes.
But like, do you feel like you're not giving your friend a chance to like show up for you by filtering in ways that you may not expect?
Sure, but it's not my expectation necessarily. Like I think of the showingness, I'm happy for the showing upness to lead where it may, versus expecting something specific from it.
But I don't think it's an expectation.
Sure, yeah, definitely. 100%. The answer to the question is yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, what you like, there's always like, you know, like sometimes you'll hold feedback back, but haven't given you a chance to then process the feedback and react to it in the way that you may or may not deserve. For sure. For sure. But do you think it impacts? So now that we're friends, I feel like I've accomplished friendship without that. I've been upgraded level. I've got the quarterly upgrade. I got the monthly upgrade without doing that. So I feel like I've done well. You know, I feel like I did it. Nailed it. First try. You see what I mean, though? Like, yes, but I think it's fine and not fine in a way. Like, which to me means it's kind of fine in a sense. Would you disagree? Yes.
Yes.
That pause is a yes. And so, how would that change then? Like, how does that change the dynamic of either friendship or showing up?
I don't know. I'm tired too.
Yeah. Is
Well,
this the last question?
like,
3 hours.
I feel like there's
Is this our longest stream? Where we have done no product work, but full
Yeah,
friendship.
there's one last question.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Is it a yes or no question?
No.
Mine was.
What were we talking about?
Showing up and the opportunity, like feeling the expression of feelings and not being as sort of elaborate in expressing the feeling, preventing or like not giving the friend opportunity to show up for me.
I think if I may be selfish,
Mhm.
I think for me it's sometimes I feel like I overshare
Okay.
and I feel like a burden when I do
Okay.
that
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, like I overshared.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, I should probably like take a chill pill,
Oh, I
take
see.
a walk.
Got it.
Process this by myself for
Got
a little bit before sharing it with other people.
Yeah.
And like believe me, when I overshare, it's still just like 1% of the things.
I believe you. I believe her.
But I think it's a place of like, okay, like I don't want to ever feel like I'm crossing a boundary
Yeah.
that we never talked about.
Got it. There's a few things there. Do you feel like because you may feel like you're oversharing, whether factual or not, but the feeling is true either way, right? That you feel like because there's undersharing perhaps, that there is an imbalance?
Maybe.
And that kind of some balance in sharing would make you feel more comfortable as a result.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Okay. And because I think it's maybe a bit different than how I accept the fluidness of it.
I think what it is in a lot of my friendships, I feel like I'm usually the one that's listening to like other people's going ons, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's different
Right.
when it's with you.
Right.
I feel like I talk about like myself more.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it's just the discomfort with like that role
Yeah, I get
being
that.
different.
Yeah.
Versus like a lot of my friends like tell me about their problems, and like I listen and I try to, show up for them.
Got it.
Maybe it's just because it's different.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's I think I'm actually fairly comfortable with whatever balance, to be honest. And so it's not a thing I think about earnestly, if that makes sense. And so I think, and it varies over time as well. I think I feel like, given sort of in the ways that I communicate, I might not be using specific trigger words, but I think I'm fairly expressive in certain ways, and I feel like I have felt and expressed the feeling, but it may not be received in that way. So I feel like I'm kind of getting the feelings value, but you as a friend may not be feeling like that's connecting in that same way.
This word is showing up too much.
Yeah, which we're not even using in this proper scientific form, I think. But to me, it's like, and I've been saying this before and now and all the time, is like, I think not everything needs, like you said, like that you haven't asked about or gotten permission to do, or you're sort of treading into sort of the space. That's how you ended your thing about like, and I feel like part of pushing that is what friendship is, in a sense, where sometimes you don't have to specifically like, it doesn't have to be as transactional, and there should be some room for me to push back if I feel like it's too much, or for you to even ask for more if you feel like it is too little, and vice versa, where I don't really see it that way, and I'm happy for it to emerge one way or another and accept it for what it is. And then that's actually very fine for me. Like, I don't see it as a balance or imbalance. I see it as the thing.
Yeah.
I know it's very vague, but that's
Did
what
you
it
just define friendship?
for me.
Did you
on
define
friendship like it's
friendship?
Friday. You know what I mean? Like, and I think this idea of like a very specific contractualness of it sometimes. I'm not saying which is what you're doing, but like the language is a contractual language, right? Where it's like, hey, these are the boundaries that we've defined or whatever. And I feel like there's some sometimes we limit the room for discovery. Because if we're always like, and there's less room to stumble as a result, where for like, I can only behave in my boundaries. I think there's some idea of why boundaries are important and why people should set them. But I think there's some also idea of like, hey, we're now together discovering this thing.
Yeah.
And that means the boundaries are going to be a little bit fuzzy as long as we're aware at some level of the counter impact after the fact sometimes. And that we're not like hurting each other too much.
Okay. I also wonder if it's like, I think because I had struggled with friendships in the past, it's just like with anything,
Yeah.
it takes time
Yeah.
to figure it out.
Yeah. And friendship is not like, again, the scientifically defined thing
Yeah.
either, where it's like,
Well, I feel like you just did that.
I just did it. Yeah. but the fluid nature of it is what it is. I think in any relationship, honestly, it's kind of like, and maybe apart from work, where it is like absolutely contractual in a sense, or other relationships. But I think it just feels like there's, as long as you set what the room for the fluidity is, I think it's fine. And so, I would not, my preference is not to think of it as in those terms, which feel to me a little bit more transactional than I would prefer in any interaction. Which is obviously the wrong or right. I think you should do what feels right to you, and then leave room for other people to react to it. And to me, it's not the way I formulate it necessarily in my mind. This is the spiciest question.
No, there's one more.
Oh my god, are we gonna do it? Is it the last one?
Last one.
Okay, let's do it.
I feel like
we've come this far.
this is actually probably not as spicy.
Yeah, you gotta end on an easy one.
I don't know if it's easy.
Oh no.
But I don't think it's as spicy. If we started a real business together,
Ooh-wee. Okay.
what would be something you'd be concerned about? If any.
I don't think I don't know if that I would necessarily. Which is not to say that concerns may emerge, or that failure or success or things like that come to my mind. I would otherwise. I mean, there's all these things that you might, like, oh, don't start businesses with your friends and all that. What does it do to when other things come into play? But I think if it's something that we wanted to decide and explore, and it may come at a cost or whatever, I'm like, okay, but it is what it is. I don't know that I would necessarily be immensely concerned about that. Versus saying, hey, is this something that we're okay kind of pursuing? Wait a minute. What are your concerns? wait you a minute there.
I think my concerns has more to do with me than
What are
anything
they?
else. I feel like I can get like hyper focused
Mhm.
at the cost of other things.
Mhm.
So I think that would be my concern. And I guess maybe in relation to you is like you wouldn't stop me from like veering way too far into like the imbalance of like, oh, I'm like spending way too much time or energy or care too much. I feel like I care too much sometimes.
But I think the language is very interesting there, which is to say stop. But I don't think it's my role to stop
I
or
know.
not stop. You know what I mean?
I know.
I think awareness is a thing, or like navigating a certain thing to say, hey, what do we want? What are the impacts? Like, and it actually would not be a concern for me. I don't think, like, also I think I have, and this is again a very super egotistical thing to say, like, I feel like I have a great trust in myself to, I mean, like, I think that there's certain cases where I've absolutely failed, like spectacularly, right? But I think when I'm in a certain zone, like when that ball has been pushed, let's just say. So I think pushing the ball is hard, right? To get it rolling down the hill. But once the ball is, and I've struggled that with the pushing the ball down the hill a lot. Once the ball is rolling, I feel like we can get things done. Even with the hyper-focusedness, even with the distractions or whatever the case may be. So it actually doesn't, I think my concern would be, hey, I don't think we'd ever start a business because I'm not a start a business kind of guy. I like the idea. I've always loved the idea, but my behavior indicates that I'm not that person, at least yet. Like the thought doesn't create the behavior. My desire doesn't even create that behavior, honestly. So what does that say about who I am? And so my concern, if a concern I would have is, I'd be like, business? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh, interesting.
or like the work, because I have started some businesses, but very like light and fluffy versus like something that I want to really get into. In fact, I feel like I've helped others grow businesses, and maybe I'm maybe even better or more comfortable there than doing the work that needs to start a business and pursue it. So I feel like if we had already started the business for whatever, like if we already pushed the ball down the hill, it's fine. What do you want to start? What are we doing?
I don't know.
To become rich and famous?
We'll see.
Huh?
We'll see.
We'll see. Okay. All right. I'm down. I'm in. Let's do it. As long as it makes me rich. This is because it's about me. I don't want to say you, but I don't know. I feel like, me being rich is more important to me.
Of course.
Yeah.
Just as me being rich is more important to me.
And I accept that. I want you to want that for you.
Yeah. Perfect. So we're aligned.
Yes, absolutely. Which is a good time for us then to wrap up.
Yes.
And how do we do that? Because this is not something we've done before.
Yeah. Thank you for watching this special episode of Ridiculous Questions. How do you feel?
Huh? I feel fine. I feel fine. I want these fidget balls. To be honest, I'm thinking about these fidget balls all this time.
I did not bring them.
I'm like, no, but I've been thinking about. I'm like, I know they're not present, but can't stop thinking about the fidget balls.
Would recommend.
There you go. I think that's a perfect way to stop. Is find the fidget balls. We'll share a link, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I think next Friday we'll probably get back to product.
Regularly scheduled.
Yes.
Product like it's Friday. We're building product, and no more friendship. We've done enough. This is what 3.5 hours of friendship straight.
This is a deep dive.
Is one step too far we've gone. So I feel like that's enough. End of friendship. Product only.
Friendship canceled.
Friendship canceled. Product focus only.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm gonna click the button.
Let's. I can't wait to click the button. All right. Let's go home, everyone.